Chapter 965. Junior brother Bai, is this your new follower? I remember you're a loner, a female disciple said. They were at the gathering place of the faction's elite disciples, and an old man following them was most likely a follower. Bai Shanliang smiled bitterly. Senior Sister Huang, it might be possible to say that I'm his root. Don't flatter me. Hearing that, those who had never seen Su Yu looked at him in surprise. Who is he? Why is Bai Shanliang praising him so much? Senior Sister Huang was also shocked. Junior brother Bai, may I ask who this is? Bai Shanliang was thinking about how to recommend Su Yu to them and leave a good impression. However, before he could speak, a discordant voice drifted over. Nothing, just a guy who knows a little Mu language and eats women's food. Senior brothers and sisters, this person is not worth befriending, the dark-skinned youth said. Everyone looked at the dark-skinned youth who had spoken. Bai Shanliang's face darkened. He turned to stare at the dark-skinned youth and said clearly, Junior brother Lu, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Do you think you don't have to pay the price for slandering me? So, the dark-skinned youth's surname is Lu. Su Yu secretly noted it down. Junior brother Lu sneered, not afraid of Bai Shanliang. Nonsense? Was I the one who spread the rumor that the central demon is unrivaled? Hearing that, the inner sanctum disciples who did not know much began to ask those who knew. They learned that on the first day he entered the faction, he had conquered Bing Wuxin, the number one beauty of the outer sanctum, and then won Xuelian's heart. After hearing that, they felt incredulous and jealous. Their impression of Su Yu was suddenly somewhat negative. Although Su Yu had won glory for the faction, the first impression had been established and improved, but there was still a gap. Bai Shanliang said, Senior brother Lu, don't tell me you don't know that the so-called Supreme is just a joke? Senior brother Lu sneered. Joke? Is there any normal person in your demon mountain? His words not only annoyed Bai Shanliang, but also Bing Wuxin and Gongsun Wuxie. Say that again. Bing Wuxin's eyes turned cold. Gongsun Wuxie narrowed her eyes and revealed a cold look. Senior brother Lu was not afraid at all. Instead, he sneered and said, This is the inner sect. It's not your demon mountain's turn to behave atrociously. Seeing that Bai Shanliang and the others were angered, Su Yu, who had been calm all this while, strode forward and said calmly, You don't have to do this for me. He has the right to say whatever he wants, but we also have the right to ignore him, so we don't have to lower ourselves to his level. The gathering this time was originally for the sects to be united and participate in the wind cloud competition. He did not want Bai Shanliang and the others to have a conflict with the people from the inner sect because of him. Senior brother Lu sneered and said, Lower yourself to the same level? Their words carry some weight, but do you think you're worthy? As if he had received a hint from Tianyu, he was extremely mean to her. Su Yu just shrugged his shoulders and replied casually, As long as you're happy. After saying those words, he retreated to the side and closed his eyes, treating Zhang Xian as heir. When senior brother Lu saw this, not only did he fail to calm his anger, he became even more furious. Compared to him, Su Yu's carefree attitude was like an infuriated monkey jumping up and down in front of a calm and composed expert. What are you pretending for? This is the place where the elites of the faction come to select the geniuses who will go to the glittering jewel wonderland. Do you think you're qualified? Senior brother Lu said coldly. Su Yu did not even open his eyes as he replied indifferently, I should be more qualified than you. Senior brother Lu was about to speak when the air around them froze all of a sudden, and a powerful pressure pressed down on them. Looking out from the entrance of the main hall, two enchanting figures were approaching in the air under the watchful eyes of thousands of people. One of them was dressed in a long black dress. She had a gentle and beautiful figure and a very quiet demeanor. Her face was extremely beautiful, a rarity in the world. Seeing this woman, Bing Wuxin's eyes turned cold, and she gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. The rest of the people were filled with awe and amazement. Bing Wuching. Su Yu glanced at her, and his gaze swept over the person beside her without any reluctance. It was a woman dressed in a short-sleeved shirt. The reason he called her a woman was because her figure was indeed that of a girl, especially her large chest, which revealed her gender. However, other than that, whether it was her short-sleeved shirt, her short hair, or her rough facial features, she was no different from a man. The conflicting feeling of a man and a woman merged into one. This woman should be the second expert of the Red Blood Palace, Tianyu. In terms of cultivation, she was a 9th grade almighty, higher than almost all of the faction elders, and only below Palace Master Mo. With such strength, she could totally establish a force that was no weaker than any of the other 16 great factions. Tianyu followed Bing Wuching closely, her eyes full of emotion as she stared at the indifferent Bing Wuching. Her strange behavior was perfectly normal in the eyes of the inner sanctum disciples. Did a quarrel break out? Bing Wuching walked over with a smile on her face, as gentle as water. Everyone looked at each other, then at Su Yu and senior brother Lu, who were in the middle of the crowd. Bing Wuching followed their gazes and saw Su Yu. Her beautiful eyes lit up, and she walked over with light steps. All of a sudden, an intoxicating fragrance greeted them. Bing Wuching stood 3 feet away from Su Yu, and they could feel each other's breath. Such a distance between a man and a woman, unless they were clearly husband and wife or lovers, would seem ambiguous. "Junior brother, do you need my help?" Bing Wuching asked. In the eyes of those who were not in the know, their intimate behavior made it seem as if they had already become lovers. All of a sudden, Su Yu clearly felt several malicious gazes. Facing the peerless woman who made many people go crazy with jealousy, Su Yu behaved very calmly. He didn't think that Bing Wuching was any prettier than Bing Wuxin. It was just that Bing Wuching's strength was greater, and she had a halo to her. "I don't need it," Su Yu replied indifferently. Bing Wuching wore a tranquil smile. "That's good." After she finished speaking, she walked to Su Yu's side without batting an eyelid, standing very close to him. Moreover, she just happened to block Bing Wuxin outside. From afar, it seemed as if she had replaced Bing Wuxin's position. Bing Wuxin's fingers, which were gripping the hilt of her sword, dug into her flesh, and her eyes were filled with coldness. Murderous intents flickered constantly. Bing Wuching's subtle behavior displeased Su Yu, and he moved his feet discreetly, moving closer to Gongsun Wuxia. However, Bing Wuching followed him, which made her behavior even more conspicuous. The crowd of inner sanctum disciples finally realized what was going on, and they looked at the two of them in surprise, quickly conversing through vital energy. "What's going on? Junior sister Bing and Su Yu, don't tell me. Don't spout nonsense. Junior sister Bing has a lofty status, and she's also very proud and arrogant. But what's going on now? Am I blind?" The crowd was in an uproar, and they were all frightened by Bing Wuching's obvious behavior. Su Yu frowned secretly. Did Bing Wuching do this on purpose? Did she want him to be everyone's enemy? Firstly, it would provoke Bing Wuxin. Secondly, it would put Su Yu on the opposite side of everyone. After entering the glittering jewel wonderland, no one would try to curry favor with Su Yu, and it would be beneficial for her to make use of Su Yu's absolute strength. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and it was evident how shrewd this woman was. All of a sudden, Su Yu felt a chill in his heart, as if an ice-cold steel needle had pierced through it. The sense of foreboding alerted Su Yu, and he immediately cast a sideways glance. It was Tianyu. She was standing outside the crowd, staring at Su Yu coldly, her bright eyes full of murderous intent. She moved her lips, and a vital energy sound transmission reached Su Yu's ears. "I've already ordered people to warn you not to get close to Bing Wuching. You should really regret not heeding my warning." Having been threatened time and time again, Su Yu was infuriated, even if he was a clay figurine. He replied bluntly, "Any time." It was fine to be envied by a man, but to be hated by a woman was really baffling. Tianyu did not speak again, and the murderous intent in her eyes intensified. Bing Wuching cast a sideways glance at him and smiled faintly. "Do you want me to come forward and persuade her?" "Persuade her about what?" Su Yu asked coldly. Bing Wuching smiled sweetly. "To persuade her not to court death, of course." Su Yu stared at Bing Wuching and sneered disdainfully. "Isn't this what you want to see?" Being isolated was exactly what Bing Wuching wanted. Bing Wuching only smiled without saying a word, which was a tacit admission. Buzz, buzz. All of a sudden, the space trembled, and a crack in the space appeared above the throne in the main hall. A cold, elegant woman in black clothes stepped out of it leisurely. "Greetings, Palace Master Mo." The people in the main hall immediately bowed respectfully. Mo Tianxian said calmly, "Rise. Since you're all here, let's start comparing the number of merit points and decide the top 15. A disciple hesitated. "Palace Master Mo, there are still several senior brothers and sisters with 4 million merit points on their way here." Before he could finish his sentence, Mo Tianxian interrupted him. She said coldly, "There's no need to wait, they've already been eliminated. It's related to such an important matter as the glittering jewel wonderland. Even if they enter the wonderland, they won't live for more than a few days. They'll just be courting death if they go there." Upon hearing this, everyone's heart shuddered. So harsh? However, this was in line with Mo Tianxuan's character. "Our faction can only recommend 50 people to enter the glittering jewel wonderland, and that doesn't include the 8 great factions under our jurisdiction. So, those whose merit points are ranked below 50 are basically disqualified," Mo Tianxian said. "Before the official comparison of merit points, those with less than 4 million merit points should leave the main hall. 4 million merit points was a threshold of loyalty. Only disciples who stayed in the faction for a long time, ranging from several years to dozens of years, could possibly gather 4 million merit points. This would prevent those who wanted to fish in troubled waters. All of a sudden, a large number of inner sanctum disciples became restless, and they left the main hall one after another. If there were less than 50 people left, they would have a chance. In an instant, there were only 50 or 60 people left in the crowded main hall. These people were all inner sanctum disciples who had accumulated 4 million merit points, and all of them were the most outstanding people in the faction. After all, only outstanding disciples could complete various tasks perfectly and accumulate such a large number of merit points. Mo Tianxuan's gaze swept over the crowd slowly. Suddenly, she was startled, as she found a familiar figure. "Why aren't you leaving?" Mo Tianxian stared at Su Yu with an unfriendly look. Chapter 966. Mo Tianxian squinted her eyes and clenched her fists secretly. "This guy." She discreetly glanced at Bing Wuching, who was beside her. "How did this guy get close to Bing Wuching?" Mo Tianxian pondered. She seemed to be very considerate of Bing Wuching. If Bing Wuching hadn't appeared, Mo Tianxian would have searched Su Yu's soul hundreds of times. Mo Tianxian calmed herself down and said sternly, "Do you want me to repeat it again? If you don't have 4 million merit points, you must leave the palace temporarily." Senior Brother Liu, who was beside her, noticed Tianxuan's gaze and stepped forward to look at Su Yu. He curled the corners of his mouth into a mocking smile. "Junior brother, please leave. Palace Mistress Mo has a venerable status, and she doesn't want to expel you personally. You don't have any self-awareness. Do you want me to ask you to leave?" Hearing this, some people who were jealous of Su Yu also spoke up. "Junior brother Su, I know you're eager to enter the glittering jewel wonderland, but it's a pity that all the participants are elites of the faction. You've just entered the faction, so you should cultivate for another 100 years and fight for your next chance." Their seemingly peaceful tone hid their delight in Su Yu's misfortune. It was unknown whether Su Yu would still be in the Red Blood Palace after 100 years. Many of the Inner Sanctum's disciples didn't change their expressions, but they were quite delighted. He had Bing Wuxin on his left and Bing Wuching on his right. The Red Blood Palace's two most beautiful women were occupied by him alone, which attracted a lot of hatred. Just as Su Yu was in a dilemma, Bing Wuqing came to his side and said in a gentle voice, "I'll pay for junior brother Su's merit points." The Red Blood Palace allowed people to transfer merit points to each other, provided that both parties were willing. Hearing this, displeasure appeared on the faces of many elite. Their jealousy became more intense, almost turning into disgust. They had worked hard, risked their lives, and used their blood, sweat, and tears to get 4 million merit points. In the end, Su Yu, who had just entered the faction a year ago, could easily get 4 million merit points by relying on a woman. Mo Tianxuan's eyes flickered as she sized Bing Wuqing up. "Wuqing, have you really decided to give him 4 million merit points? You don't have 8 million merit points. If you give him 4 million, you might lose your right to enter the glittering jewel wonderland." "Master, I'm willing for junior brother Su," Bing Wuqing said in a gentle voice, her face slightly flushed. His words and actions all revealed his special feelings for Su Yu. She's willing to give up such a great opportunity. Could it be that Bing Wuqing's feelings for Su Yu are true? Tianyu's face was gloomy, and her eyes were filled with murderous intent as she stared at Su Yu. If not for Mo Tianxuan's presence, it would be hard to guarantee that she wouldn't attack Su Yu in public. This action completely infuriated many genius disciples who thought highly of themselves. "Su Yuxian, if you are a man, then rely on your own strength and fight for merit in an upright manner. What's the point of relying on women? I Tang, look down on people like you," a tall and handsome young man berated. His words were righteous, but they were filled with unwillingness and jealousy. "Su Yuxian, so what if you obtained merit points? In the Wind Cloud Great Assembly, it will be difficult for you to fight your way into the top 100. Rather than carrying a bad reputation, it is better to just give up. This senior sister is doing this for your own good." A senior sister with a mole between her brows said. His words were filled with admonishment, but they were also burning with jealousy. No one was willing to see a new disciple with nothing standing on top of them. In fact, Su Yu hadn't done anything, nor had he begged Bing Wuqing for anything. It was all Bing Wuqing's doing, and they should be blaming Bing Wuqing, not Su Yu. The reason for this was that Bing Wuqing was too strong, while Su Yu was too weak. Facing the crowd's accusations, as well as their jealous and disdainful gazes, Su Yu's expression was calm, and he looked at Bing Wuqing calmly. "I appreciate your good intentions, but as for the merit points, you can keep them for yourself." He rejected her in public. Bing Wuqing revealed a faint smile. In fact, since she had even investigated Su Yu's true identity, how could she not know whether he had obtained 4 million merit points or not? She was just putting on an act just now. Upon hearing this, the infuriated geniuses all relaxed and relieved expressions appeared on their faces. Senior Brother Tang revealed a bright smile and said, "Junior brother, you have an outstanding moral character, and I believe that even if you didn't have the glittering jewel wonderland's opportunities, you would still have some achievements." Hee, that's right. In fact, staying in the Red Blood Palace and cultivating peacefully is much better than taking risks in the glittering jewel wonderland, where we don't know whether we'll survive or not, the senior sister who had spoken earlier also said. Su Yu sneered coldly in his heart as he listened to their words, as if they were all very happy. The so-called friendship of fellow disciples was nothing in the face of benefits. If they hadn't behaved like this, he might have helped them if he had met them in the glittering jewel wonderland. As for now, who told you that I can't go to the glittering jewel wonderland without Bing Wuqing? Su Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said coldly, "I've already gathered enough merit points, so you don't need to worry about me." Upon hearing this, the crowd was shocked. Was he alone enough? How was this possible? Gathering 4 million merit points in a year was more difficult than ascending to heaven. No matter how they looked at it, it was impossible. The only explanation was that someone had helped him in secret, and had given him merit points in advance. Mo Tianxian looked surprised. She hadn't expected that Su Yu would have enough merit point. Alright, I'll check yours first. Mo Tianxian stretched out her jade-like finger. Take out your identity token. Su Yu threw his identity badge at her, then stood calmly on the spot. When the crowd saw his expression, they all knew that the identity badge didn't need to be examined anymore, as it surely had 4 million merit points. The question now was, where did he get his merit point? A newcomer, who hadn't even been here for a year, had gotten ahead of them. No one was willing to let this matter rest. Everyone stared at the jade pendant. The merit point examination didn't only examine the amount. It could also examine the origin of the merit point. Through this, they could roughly determine how the person was carrying out his mission in the sanctum, and whether it was normal. After all, it wasn't impossible for a wealthy person to buy merit points with crystals. Mo Tianxian squinted her eyes and stared at Su Yu for a while. She wanted to see any other expression on his face, but all she saw was confidence that came from his bones. Mo Tianxian stroked the identity badge, then tapped it lightly with her fingertip. A wisp of all creation's mighty force penetrated the badge. A hazy light was projected from the badge, and a light projection appeared in the void. It recorded the origin of Su Yu's merit points in detail. Before the light became clear, many inner sanctum disciples had a disdainful look on their faces. 4 million merit points. I wonder which woman gifted him that. When the green light dissipated, the light projection became clear. Rows of detailed records appeared before their eyes. After a quick glance, they didn't find any monetary gift. There were only 2 types of income. First, rewards. Second, missions. There were several rewards, each of which was worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of merit points. For example, in the first category, performing meritorious deeds in the Elegant Spirit Mountain, exposing the hidden ghosts and rescuing fellow disciples, would be rewarded with 100,000 merit points. For example, in the second category, performing meritorious deeds in Tianya City, reclaiming the occupied shops, would be rewarded with 100,000 merit points. There were several similar types of rewards. Just these top-notch rewards, which were worth 100,000 merit points, caused many people to gasp. They hadn't heard of such a huge reward for 100,000 merit points in many years, but Su Yu had received it no less than 3 times in a row. If this was enough to shock them, then the rewards for the following missions were even more shocking. The mission to kill Mo Yang will be rewarded with 3 million merit points. This item caused many people to exclaim in surprise. This was a famous mission that had been on the ghost list for 10 years, yet had never been completed. Who didn't know about it? Countless inner sect disciples had attempted to complete the mission, but not a single one of them had ever returned. Yet, this mission had been completed by an outer sanctum disciple. While they were still shocked, they began to believe the authenticity of Su Yu's merit point. Oh my God! Look, there's even a record of 3 million merit points. When the crowd looked over, they saw that there was indeed a record of a gift. The gift's quota had reached 3 million merit points. Such a dazzling gift was like a slap to their faces. Su Yu, who they had assumed relied on gifts to gather enough merit points, had unexpectedly gifted 3 million merit points. The recipient of the gift is Bing Wuxin. Bing Wuxin. Everyone looked at Bing Wuxin in unison, inexplicably shocked. Some of the male disciples who admired her were surprised, ashamed, and unwilling. They didn't have the courage to give her all 3 million merit points. Some of the female disciples were envious and jealous. Bing Wuxin, who was the center of attention, had an unnatural expression on her face. In fact, with her temperament, no matter how many people paid attention to her, she would just ignore them as if they were air. But it was the ambiguous look in their eyes that made Bing Wuxin feel unnatural. Is Su Yuxian really in love with Bing Wuxin? Someone muttered to himself. It was difficult to explain why Su Yu would gift 3 million merit points to Bing Wuxin. As the crowd was discussing this, Gongsun Wuxia chuckled and said, "Let me tell you, This is Brother Yuxian's gift to Sister Wuxin as a token of love. The two of them will soon get engaged." Her words gave rise to a great uproar. This was especially true for the disciples who had been in secluded training all year round. "What? Bing Wuxin is going to marry him?" Many male disciples cried out involuntarily, their words filled with urgency. In the eyes of many inner sanctum disciples, Bing Wuxin was a peerless beauty who was second only to Bing Wuqing, and she had countless admirers. Now, this sudden piece of news was like a bolt from the blue, and they were unable to accept it. "Su Yu, do you think that you are qualified to get engaged to Bing Wuxin?" It was still the handsome senior brother Tang, and he questioned Su Yu sternly. His jealousy was burning like a furnace, and it seemed like he wanted to melt Su Yu. Before Su Yu could open his mouth to explain, Gongsun Wuxia said with a faint smile, "Senior brother Tang, you are broad-minded and have a great love for everyone. One moment you are fighting for Bing Wuqing's affections, and the next moment you are defending Sister Wuxin. Which one do you like?" Of course, he liked both of them. Whether it was appearance, cultivation, or talent, they were all the best in the world. But how could he say such a thing? "That's not what I meant." Senior brother Tang hurriedly hid his strange expression and stared at Su Yu seriously. "I just feel that a peerless beauty like junior sister Bing shouldn't hastily decide to marry someone of a lower status." Gongsun Wuxia said with a smile, "If she doesn't marry him, who is willing to gift her 3 million merit points, will she marry you, who only knows how to talk?" Senior brother Tang's face flushed, and he hurriedly explained, "I don't have any improper thoughts about junior sister Bing, I just feel that she is not worth." "Shut up." A cold rebuke drifted over. Bing Wuxin's eyes were cold. "It's not up to you to decide whether she is worth it or not. I, Bing Wuxin, will marry whoever I want to marry, and whoever thinks that he is more outstanding than Su Yu must first ask the sword in my hand." When she finished speaking, Bing Wuxin's heart started thumping wildly. She touched her chest subconsciously. This was the first time since she was born that her heartbeat had quickened. It was a new and wonderful feeling, and it also confused her. The whole place quieted down. Bing Wuxin's desire to protect Su Yu was undeniable. Senior brother Tang's face flushed, and he shut his mouth reluctantly. Chapter 967. Not bad, there's no problem with the merit points, and they meet the requirements. Next, let's check the merit points one by one, Mo Tianxian said. More than 50 people presented their identity badges one after another to verify their merit point. Finally, the results were out. 53 people had more than 4 million merit points. 5 people had exactly 4 million merit points, including Su Yu, Bing Wuxin, and Gongsun Wuxia. Tian Yu and the others couldn't help but sneer at the subtle results. There were only 50 places, and the extra people were obviously disqualified. Senior brother Tang's expression softened slightly, and he cast a cold smile at Su Yu. In the end, as he had said, Su Yu would have to wait for another 100 years. Senior brother Lu chuckled. "Junior brother, it seems like your merit points aren't enough, and you'll have to borrow from a woman." Su Yu furrowed his brows. Accumulating 4 million merit points in half a year was already very difficult. He didn't expect that it would still be insufficient. Bing Wuxin and Gongsun Wuxia also didn't expect such a result, and they said in surprise, "In the past, there were less than 40 people who managed to accumulate 4 million merit points. Only this time, how could there be so many?" The number of merit points distributed by the sanctum every year was fixed. Usually, no more than 40 disciples who entered the sanctum within 10 years could get 4 million merit points. The only explanation was that some people had bought a large number of merit points in a short time. There were at least 10 people who had managed to squeeze into the top 50 through purchasing. This was the reason why Su Yu and the others had been pushed out of the top 50. It must be because of the chaotic thoughts of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands recently, which made many people feel uneasy, and they were trying their best to obtain merit points in order to fight for the glittering jewel wonderland before the crisis arrived. Suyu, who had been fully confident of entering the glittering jewel wonderland, was now excluded. Emo Tianxian glanced at Suyu, satisfaction flickering in her eyes. Instead of letting Suyu enter the glittering jewel wonderland, it would be better for him to stay in the Red Blood Palace, where she could keep an eye on him. Since Bing Wuqing wasn't here, she could search his soul again, and she believed that she would surely discover many secrets. Okay, since the results are out, the top 50 should prepare themselves and follow me to the Purple Cloud Palace, Emo Tianxian said. This year's Fengyun Great Meet would be held by the Purple Cloud Palace. Tianyu grinned, which meant that he didn't have a chance. Wait, Suyu said. Emo Tianxian stopped in her tracks and looked at Suyu calmly, like a cat staring at a mouse in her palm. What's the matter? Dare I ask Palace Mistress Emo, how many rounds of selection are there in the glittering jewel wonderland? Suyu asked. Palace Mistress Emo replied calmly. It's obviously 2 selections. Our faction's 4 million merit points are just the first selection, while the Wind and Cloud Meet is the second selection. It's only by passing both selections that one can be recommended into the Red Blood Palace. Suyu asked, Palace Master Emo, why are you so confident that all of the 50 people you brought with you can pass the second selection? The Wind and Cloud Meeting of Geniuses was undoubtedly a gathering of experts. Even Emo Tianxian could not guarantee that the 50 people she brought would be able to make it to the top 100. However, Emo Tianxian seemed to have expected that Suyu would say such a thing, and with a teasing look in her eyes, she said, I don't need you to remind me about this. Among the 50 people, there will surely be a few who won't make it to the top 100. This is my intention, and my aim is to leave some empty spots for the few great factions under my jurisdiction. Otherwise, if the Red Blood Palace monopolized all the quotas and didn't leave a single one for the 8 great factions, they would surely complain about it. It had been like this in the past, and it had become a common practice. Bing Wuxin and the others furrowed their brows. Would all of their efforts go to waste? If you don't have anything else to say, you can withdraw and cultivate peacefully. If you are still disciples in the next 100 years, you might still have a chance, Emo Tianxian said. She was quite pleased that she had made things difficult for Suyu. However, Suyu replied calmly, Palace Mistress Emo, do you really think that only a few people will fail to make it to the top 50? When he said this, the top 50 people who had been chosen didn't hesitate at all. Did he mean that their power was too weak? Emo Tianxuan's eyes flickered. Oh? Do you have any opinion? I don't have any opinion, but I have a prediction, Suyu said. Suyu said, recently, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands are in a state of chaos. Even the disciples of my sanctum are trying their best to gather enough merit points to go to the glittering jewel wonderland. May I ask if the Purple Cloud Palace has thought of that? May I ask whether the many hidden geniuses in Tianya City have thought of this? May I ask whether the great factions under your jurisdiction have thought of this? If Palace Mistress Emo holds the same opinion as the previous ones, I'm sure that there will be more than a few disciples who will fail to make it to the top 100. Emo Tianxian and the other geniuses had been waiting to watch a good show, but after hearing this, their expressions became more or less solemn. Indeed, this year's glittering jewel wonderland was in a very sensitive period. Firstly, the human race had just experienced the Great War between humans and ghosts 100 years ago, and they were still fearful of it. Secondly, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands had been in chaos recently. Everyone had a premonition that a crisis was imminent, and they were all making ample preparations. The competition in the glittering jewel wonderland this time was much more intense than before. In the past, there were less than 40 people who had fulfilled the requirement of 4 million merit points, but today there were 60. If they didn't take precautions, they would surely make a mistake. Emo Tianxian squinted her eyes and stared at Suyu. What's your opinion? They could only bring 50 people each time. If they brought too many people, they would be suspected of monopolizing all the quotas, which would easily arouse criticism and dissatisfaction from the factions under their jurisdiction. It's not really an opinion, but I think it's never wrong for the factions to hold back. Suyu wore a stern look. Although we, who have fulfilled the requirement of 4 million merit points, can't join the 50 people, we can still be substitute. If any senior brother has a headache or fever, we can replace him at the last minute. Substitutes? Emo Tianxuan's eyes flickered. This method was somewhat shameless, but it was very effective. What Suyu meant was that when the current 50 disciples were about to be defeated in the Wind and Cloud Great Meet, they could pretend to be unwell and leave on their own accord, replacing them as substitute. The rules of the Wind and Cloud Great Meet had never allowed substitutes at the last minute. But it wasn't prohibited either. Hearing this, the rest of the disciples didn't look too pleased. The Wind and Cloud Great Meet was a top-notch competition at the level of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and the competition was fair and aboveboard. Victory was victory and defeat was defeat. If such a substitute system were to spread, it would damage their reputation. Palace Master, I object. Our Red Blood Palace relies on our prestige to intimidate the factions under our jurisdiction. If we do such a shameless thing, how can we maintain our foothold in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands? Senior Brother Lu was the first to object. Suyu didn't even look at him and calmly said, "Prestige? What intimidates the factions is one's power. If the outstanding disciples in the faction miss out on opportunities, it will cause the overall power to decline, and the factions under our jurisdiction won't obey us. Senior brother, you're putting the cart before the horse. Prestige wasn't something that could be determined by one's moral character. What was most important was one's power. If one didn't have the power to crush them, who among the 16 great factions would be willing to submit to the Red Blood Palace and the Purple Cloud Palace?" Senior Brother Lu cast a disdainful glance at him, as if to say, "What do you know?" Senior Brother Lu cupped his hands at Emo Tianxian and said, "Palace Master, please don't believe Su Yuxian's slanderous words and tarnish the Red Blood Palace's reputation." However, Emo Tianxuan's beautiful eyes were fixed on Suyu. She wore a faint smile as she said, "I think what he said makes a lot of sense." Emo Tianxian had always done things her own way, and her actions were unexpected and beyond the rules. Suyu's suggestion was actually very much to her liking. What was a mere reputation worth in the face of fighting for power for the sect? "That's a good idea. I like it very much." Emo Tianxian smiled and revealed a charming expression. She stared at Suyu and said, "Congratulations, you've convinced me. However, I'll have to change the suggestion a little. It's too deliberate to be a substitute on the surface. Before anything happens officially, all of you will follow me as my personal servants, including you." Meeting Emo Tianxuan's gaze, Suyu's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. Personal servant? What is this woman up to this time? It's decided then. 50 official contestants, and the remaining 10 will follow me as substitute. Emo Tianxian announced on the spot. "Now, let's go." Emo Tianxian raised her hand and grabbed, tearing a dark space crack in the void of the main hall. "Enter quickly, it can transport you 10 million miles away." Emo Tianxuan's palm was in a grabbing position, as if she was supporting the 5 cracks. Suyu glanced into the cracks and was secretly surprised. Space tunnel. He wasn't the only one who was surprised. The so-called space tunnel was a tunnel that connected 2 spatial points. Normally, there would be formation masters who connected 2 spatial points through special means to form a space transportation portal. However, Emo Tianxian could casually create a temporary space tunnel with just one hand. This was a technique that only mortal fairies were proficient in. Although Emo Tianxuan's cultivation wasn't at the mortal fairy realm, some of her techniques were comparable to immortal fairies. She was indeed the strongest all-creation expert below the mortal fairies. Suyu had a new understanding of this woman's strength. The group of people didn't dare hesitate and stepped into the crack nervously. Suyu was about to step forward when he heard Mo Tianxian say, "Suyuxian, stay behind." Suyu's heart skipped a beat. When he looked back, he caught a glimpse of Mo Tianxuan's playful gaze. After hesitating for a moment, Suyu decided to stay behind. Bing Wuxin looked at Mo Tianxian in surprise. Her intuition told her that Mo Tianxian seemed to be targeting Suyu. "You can leave first." "I'll be there shortly," Suyu said. Bing Wuxin thought for a moment. With Mo Tianxuan's character, she wouldn't do anything sneaky to harm Suyu. "All right." Bing Wuxin nodded and stepped into the crack with Gongsun Wuxia. Soon, only Mo Tianxian and Suyu were left in the main hall. Mo Tianxian waved her hand and the crack in the space closed slowly. She waved her sleeves lightly and sealed the whole hall's door. In this way, no matter what happened in the hall, the outside world wouldn't know. "Haha, only the two of us are left, Suyuxian." Mo Tianxian stood up slowly from the main seat. Suyu didn't see any movement, but he felt his vision go black. Mo Tianxian had teleported in front of him. Their eyes met, and they were only a few inches apart. Suyu looked at the cold and elegant face that was almost touching. Her delicate skin was clear, and he could even smell the faint fragrance from her. Suyu didn't look happy at all at such an intimate scene. Mo Tianxian extended her little finger and lifted Suyu's chin. Her eyes shone with a faint smile. "Why do you think I asked you to stay behind?" Suyu's face was calm. Since there was no one around, there was no need for him to pretend. He said calmly, "In any case, it's not to flirt with a disciple like me." Chapter 968. Staring at the cold and beautiful face in front of him, Suyu's heart skipped a beat. There was no man in the world who wouldn't be tempted by a woman like Mo Tianxian, especially when she said such words. A strange look flickered in Suyu's eyes for a moment before he returned to normal and looked into her eyes quietly. Mo Tianxian arched her brows and said unhappily, "Can't you just follow my wishes and let me be happy?" Ever since they had met, Suyu had always given her a feeling that she couldn't control him, and she didn't like such a situation. Suyu said expressionlessly, "Palace Mistress Mo, if you have something to say, just say it. If they wait for too long, they will surely become suspicious." Mo Tianxian withdrew her finger and snorted. "You have already attached yourself to Bing Wuqing, so what can I do to you? I asked you to stay here just to warn you about something." Suyu's ears twitched. "Warn me? Palace Mistress Mo, please go ahead." Mo Tianxian clasped her hands behind her back, looked at Suyu and said, "I heard that Bing Wuxin publicly agreed to your courtship, and is only waiting for her mother's approval before you are officially engaged." Mo Tianxian, who had just returned to the Red Blood Palace, also paid attention to this matter. After thinking for a moment, Suyu said, "Although there are some misunderstandings, it's more or less as you said." Mo Tianxian said, "Then, let me ask you again. Does Bing Wuqing also want to marry you?" Suyu shook his head firmly. "No, she just wants to use this to suppress Bing Wuxin." Mo Tianxian revealed a look of approval. "You are able to keep a clear head in front of a peerless woman like Bing Wuqing. I really have to look up to you." Indeed, Bing Wuqing won't fall in love with anyone. She seems to have feelings, but she is actually heartless, Mo Tianxian said slowly. Suyu nodded and asked, "Palace Mistress Mo, did you ask me to stay here just because you are concerned about my marriage?" "Of course not. Whoever you marry has nothing to do with me. I just have to remind you that you should keep your distance from both of them, and don't touch anyone." Mo Tianxuan's tone was very solemn, and it didn't sound like she was joking. Suyu pondered for a moment. "Palace Mistress Mo, please explain it clearly." Mo Tianxian looked at Suyu with a profound look in her eyes. "It would be easier if you could just state it clearly. But, listen to my warning, the dispute between them is not something you can meddle in. Becoming the fiancé of one of them is a curse, not a blessing. Having said that, Mo Tianxian remained secretive. She tore open a space crack with one hand and said, "Let's go." Mo Tianxuan's words lingered in Su Yu's mind, but he did not take them to heart. This was because Su Yu couldn't really become Bing Wuxin's fiancée. Mo Tianxian grabbed Su Yu's shoulder and stepped into the crevice. As the space around them spun, when the surroundings cleared up, they appeared in a desolate grassland. Bing Wuxin and the others had already arrived. Qila, when Su Yu and Mo Tianxian stepped out of the fissure, many students immediately surrounded them. Mo Tianxian said, "We'll have to go through 10 teleportations along the way. Rest for an hour after each teleportation." Teleportation had a huge impact on their mental power. Every time they teleported, they would feel exhausted. Mo Tianxian put Su Yu down and patted his shoulder lightly with her palm. She wanted him to remember her words. Su Yu paused for a moment, his lips moving slightly. "Thank you." No matter what, Mo Tianxuan's intention was to protect him. Mo Tianxian didn't cause him trouble as he had imagined. Instead, she reminded him to stay away from the conflict between Bing Wuxin and Bing Wuqing. Looking at the two people standing in the distance, Su Yu was very curious. What was their relationship? Were they twin sisters? "What did she do to you?" Bing Wuxin asked as she strode over with her slender legs. Su Yu smiled. "Nothing. Thank you for your concern." Bing Wuxin snorted and turned her face away. "Who cares about you?" "Hee, Sister Wuxin doesn't care, but I do." Gongsun Wuxia popped her head out. "Sister Wuxin doesn't care about it. Let me have it. How should I thank her? A kiss of love? A light kiss or a long kiss? A wet kiss or a dry kiss? Or maybe a full kiss?" Gongsun Wuxia opened her eyes wide, full of expectation. Bing Wuxin, who was leaning to the side, squinted her eyes suddenly and said in a deep voice, "I haven't left yet." She was really annoyed. She was flirting with her fiancé in public. Was she looking down on her? "Oh, Sister Wuxin, even if you don't want it, you won't allow others to have it." Gongsun Wuxia looked at Bing Wuxin with a smile. The two of them stared at each other, and there was a faint hostility between them. Su Yu said helplessly, "Seize the time to rest. Long-distance teleportation consumes a lot of soul energy." Bing Wuxin took a deep look at Gongsun Wuxia, closed her eyes slowly, and rested on the spot. Gongsun Wuxia pouted and skipped to Su Yu's side, leaning against him to recover her energy. An hour later, everyone had recovered. Mo Tianxian tore open 5 more cracks, and everyone was transported again. After repeating this for a total of 10 hours, they finally arrived at a mountain forest that was enshrouded in clouds and mist. The mountains were extremely tall, and many giant peaks that pierced through the clouds stood on the horizon. From afar they looked like pillars that supported the heavens, and it was a great visual impact. Masses of purple mist shrouded the top of the mountain, and magnificent palaces and figures could be vaguely seen. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was like a paradise in heaven. "That's where the Purple Cloud Palace is located. Substitute attendants, come behind me," Mo Tianxian said. Su Yu and the other 10 people rushed over immediately, and stood behind Mo Tianxian as attendants. After thinking for a moment, Su Yu took out the mask made by the little Kylin and put it on lightly. Mo Tianxian raised her eyebrows when she noticed the scene. She was a little surprised by the material of the mask. She looked at it but couldn't see the true face under the mask. Her lips moved, but she didn't say anything in the end. Su Yu's identity was sensitive. The name of Master Su was well known in the blessed and heavenly lands, and the Fengyun Great Assembly was full of good and bad people. Using a mask to temporarily hide his identity was perfect. After they landed, Mo Tianxian ordered everyone to rest where they were. About an hour later, 10 figures appeared on several giant peaks shrouded in purple mist, descending one after another. Su Yu had seen one of them before. He was the bald monk who had sent the Mu words expert from the Purple Cloud Palace to the desolate evil jungle as a sacrifice. In that case, they were all elders of the Purple Cloud Palace. Su Yu was secretly shocked when he roughly scanned their cultivation. Among the 10 of them, 5 of them were 9th-grade Divine Masters. As for the Red Blood Palace, apart from the left and right Palace Masters and the Outer Sanctum Great Palace Master, they didn't have any 9th-grade Almighty Elders. From the perspective of the Elders, the Purple Cloud Palace was obviously superior to the Red Blood Palace. Where is the true man of the Purple Cloud? Mo Tianxian asked. Among the 10 of them, a female elder with a tattoo on her neck said respectfully, Dao Master has been waiting for Palace Mistress Mo for a long time. We are here to welcome you. Mo Tianxian sneered and said, I haven't seen that old Taoist for 100 years. I wonder if he has broken through the hidden gate and touched the mortal fairy realm. It's rare for him to come, so I'll meet him personally. As soon as he finished speaking, he tore space apart with his hand and stepped through the void. Before she left, she impolitely left behind a voice transmission. My personal attendants and disciples, you must make sure to settle down properly. If even a single strand of their hair is missing, I will be responsible for all of you. The elders who came to welcome them looked at each other. How could there be a headmaster who would abandon his disciple and run off to spar with someone else? The Red Blood Palace's geniuses couldn't help but mutter to themselves. After that, under the Purple Cloud Palace's arrangements, Su Yu and the others flew to the 3rd giant peak. This peak was called the Purple Sun Peak, and it was used to receive guests. When they arrived, the geniuses of the other 16 great factions of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands had all arrived. At a glance, there were many 5th-grade Almighty, and 6th-grade Almighty strong men weren't rare either. There were even a few 8th-grade Almighty existences. There was even a vague ripple of a 9th-grade Almighty's aura that was detected by Su Yu's transparent eye. Su Yu was shocked. The 9th-grade Almighty that he sensed didn't come from the Red Blood Palace or the Purple Cloud Palace. Chapter 969. Of course, their arrival attracted the attention of many parties. The Red Blood Palace was one of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands' 2 strongest factions, and all of the experts it brought with it were elites among elites. There were 60 of them, and the aura emanating from them was quite eye-catching. That's the Red Blood Palace. Strange, why do they have so many people? It's indeed more than in previous years. It seems like even the Red Blood Palace has a backup plan. The number of disciples brought by the factions participating in the meeting this year was more or less higher than in the past. The Red Blood Palace was no exception. This action caused the forces of the various sects to be somewhat worried. Wouldn't the competition become even more intense? The Red Blood Palace's disciples looked at the number of disciples from the other factions and couldn't help but be shocked. Su Yuxian was right. Almost all the factions had brought more disciples than in the past. Many people looked at Su Yu, rejoicing that he had reminded them. Otherwise, the Red Blood Palace would have been at a disadvantage if they had only followed the previous rules. The Fengyan Great Meet didn't have a specific date, and it started with all the factions arriving. Now that the Red Blood Palace had arrived, the Fengyan Great Meet was about to begin. They could only wait for the masters of the Red Blood Palace and the Purple Cloud Palace to announce the start of the meet. As they waited, the factions' contestants began to divide themselves into different factions. The 8 factions under the jurisdiction of the Red Blood Palace gathered around the disciples of the Red Blood Palace, chatting and laughing with each other. On the other side were the disciples of the Purple Cloud Palace. The 2 sides were clearly divided, and the competition was intense. Senior Sister Bing, Senior Sister Tian. The disciples of the 8 great factions elected their strongest senior brothers or sisters to come forward and greet the leaders of the Red Blood Palace. Bing, Wuqing and Tian Yu responded to them one by one. With them taking the lead, the other disciples of the 8 factions also went to chat with the other disciples of the Red Blood Palace, hoping to befriend them. Firstly, they might show mercy if they met in the Fengyan Great Meet, and secondly, they could help each other if they met in the glittering Jewel Wonderland. The Red Blood Palace was a gathering of geniuses, with dozens of 8th grade almighty among them. Naturally, the other faction's disciples were eager to befriend them. Of course, Suyu, who was only a 9th grade fairy, was an exception. There were many people who were curious about Suyu, the silver-masked man. But, after a short conversation, they found out that Suyu was just Emo Tianquan's personal attendant. So, they ended the conversation tactfully and hurriedly looked for other geniuses of the Red Blood Palace. On the other hand, Bing Wuxin, Gongsun Wuxie, and Bai Shanliang were quite popular even in the 8 great sects, and many people came forward to befriend them. Suyu was free, and he was secretly observing the movements in his surroundings. He was surprised to discover that one of the 8 great factions under the jurisdiction of the Red Blood Palace was behaving very calmly. From the beginning until the end, they stood at the edge, and they didn't seem to have any intention of trying to befriend the Red Blood Palace's geniuses. When Suyu looked over, he discovered that there were 9 disciples, both male and female. The 9 disciples were led by a 23-year-old man in the middle. The man's appearance was ordinary, but there was a flame imprint on his right cheek. The imprint seemed to be alive as it lightly pulsed. His aura was restrained, and if it wasn't for the fact that everyone was looking at him, it would be difficult to notice him. As Suyu stared at the man, he felt a faint sense of danger. After thinking for a moment, Suyu used his soul eyes and silently scanned his body. He was shocked. Wuxie, who is that person? Suyu asked Gongsun Wuxie, who was in front of him. Gongsun Wuxie followed Suyu's gaze and quickly replied, "He's the Soul-Seizing Palace's eldest disciple, Wei Bufan. He once refused the Red Blood Palace's internal recruitment and stayed in the Soul-Seizing Palace. His cultivation is at the level 8 Divine Master realm, and he would be a top-notch genius in the Red Blood Palace. It's a pity." Level 8 Divine Master realm? Suyu's transparent eyes could see that he was hiding a level 9 Divine Master realm. This was also the vague level 9 Divine Master realm aura that he had felt a moment ago. He didn't expect that this person would be a genius expert of the Soul-Seizing Palace. In terms of cultivation, he wasn't any weaker than the Red Blood Palace's Bing Wuqing and Tianyu. All of a sudden, Wei Bufan swept his gaze over, as if he had sensed Suyu's probing gaze. Suyu retracted his gaze just in time, and Wei Bufan frowned as he scanned the surroundings suspiciously. "Eldest senior brother, what's wrong?" A young woman, who was beside Wei Bufan, asked him out of concern. Wei Bufan replied coldly, "There is a special probing power in the Red Blood Palace, and it seems like it has discovered my cultivation." The black-veiled woman exclaimed in surprise, "Eldest senior brother, you are cultivating the original returning demonic art, and it's quite good at concealing itself. Could it be Bing Wuqing and Tianyu?" "It doesn't seem like it. It should be someone else." Wei Bufan furrowed his brows. "Send a message to beware of the Red Blood Palace's hidden mysterious experts." After this incident, Suyu kept a low profile and closed his eyes to rest. The people around him were busy befriending the Red Blood Palace's geniuses, so they didn't have the time to pay attention to him. After an hour, both sides' conversation came to an end. Suyu was still ignored by everyone, and even those who were curious about him were driven away by his status as a servant. Swoosh! Swoosh! It was at this moment that 2 people flew over from the first peak. Emo Tianxian and an old man with a head full of white hair were both floating in the air. Emo Tianxian wore a beaming smile, as it seemed like she hadn't suffered any losses in the previous exchange. The white-haired elder must be the leader of the Purple Cloud Palace, the true man of the Purple Cloud. It was rumored that he was one of the few all-creations strong martial artists in the Jiuzhou continent who could contend against Emo Tianxian. He was at the pinnacle among all creation's old monsters. The crowd quickly quieted down. Not a single sound could be heard as they respectfully looked at the 2 people in the sky. According to the joint calculation of the 9 great prefectures' kings, the glittering jewel wonderland will descend in the near future. Time waits for no one. Ever since the great war between humans and ghosts happened 100 years ago, our blessed and heavenly lands has lost many of our heroes. We've been recuperating for 100 years, and we've finally regained our former glory. The glittering jewel wonderland must not be missed. Venerable Purple Cloud said. His tone was calm, but there was a unique rhythm to it, making it sound impassioned. The purpose of the Fengyun Genius Meet this time is to select the 100 most outstanding people from the blessed and heavenly lands to represent the blessed and heavenly lands in the glittering jewel wonderland. If you return with some gains, you will surely be a force that will help the blessed and heavenly lands prosper in the future, Venerable Purple Cloud said. Hearing this, everyone was eager. Next, it was time to announce the official start of the Fengyun Genius Assembly. One by one, the strongest 50 would be chosen. In other words, it would be an arena competition. However, according to my discussion with Palace Mistress Mo, the rules of the Fengyun Genius Assembly will be changed. Venerable Purple Cloud said suddenly, the assessment of the Fengyun Genius Assembly will no longer be an arena competition, but an adventure competition. Chapter 970. When he finished speaking, the true man of the purple cloud rolled up his sleeves, and 200 streaks of purple vital energy were accurately separated from his sleeves. The vital energy fell evenly on the heads of all the outstanding young geniuses, forming a faint circular rune above their heads. The Red Blood Palace's disciples all had the word Qi displayed above their heads. The Purple Cloud Palace disciples had the word purple above their heads. It was the same for the disciples of the other forces. Their auras indicated their sect background. If one side concedes defeat or is defeated, the purple vital energy will gather above the winner's head. When the match ends, the result will be determined according to the amount of purple cloud vital energy. The true man of the purple cloud announced, the duration of the competition is 1 day. In the secret realm, as long as you admit defeat or are in life-threatening danger, you will be transported out. There won't be too much danger. When Suyu heard this, he furrowed his brows. Changing the arena competition into a risky competition? It sounded very fair and it saved a lot of time. The ranking could be completed in a day. However, the Purple Cloud secret realm belonged to the Purple Cloud Palace. The disciples of the Purple Cloud Palace were far more familiar with the secret realm than the disciples participating in the competition. Making use of his familiarity with the terrain to seize the Purple Cloud vital energy was an obvious advantage. How could Mo Tianxian agree to such an unreasonable competition? Also, the true man of the Purple Cloud looked around and said, anyone who has deployed the Purple Cloud vital energy can participate in the competition, no matter who you are. Suyu suddenly understood. As Mo Tianxuan's personal attendants, Suyu, Bing Wuqing, Gongsun Wuxie, Bai Shanliang, and the others all had the Purple Cloud vital energy above their heads. In that case, they could participate in the competition justifiably. Looking at the other sects, they had brought along a large number of outstanding young disciples, but none of them had obtained the Purple Cloud vital energy. The difference in treatment caused the faces of many sect leaders to darken. May I ask, true man of the Purple Cloud, why do some of our disciples not have the Purple Cloud vital energy? A fair-skinned, middle-aged scholar, who was holding a white fan in his hand, asked respectfully as he stared in Suyu's direction. This question was something that many sect leaders were unhappy with. Why could the Red Blood Palace send 10 more people to participate, while they were the exception? The true man of the Purple Cloud said indifferently, the secret realm can only accommodate a limited number of people. If you want to share the pressure for the secret realm, the people of the soul-seizing palace need not participate. The threat could not be any stronger. The middle-aged scholar said, Taoist Master is being too serious. I am only curious. I will definitely obey Taoist Master's arrangements. Taking a step back, the middle-aged scholar's face was calm, but the hand that held the fan unconsciously tightened. With the middle-aged scholar's setback, who would dare to question him. Su Yu finally understood why Mo Tianxian had agreed to participate in the unfair competition. In exchange, the Red Blood Palace would get 10 more participants. All of you, follow me to the secret realm. The true man of the purple cloud tapped the ground lightly with his toes and crossed the clouds, flying to the top of the second peak. The peak of the mountain was a place shrouded in clouds and mist. It was impossible to see beyond 3 kilometers with the naked eye. Perhaps it was because of the formation, but the spiritual energy on the peak was exceptionally dense. Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating for 10 days in the outside world. It was even to the extent that he could faintly see precious materials that were rarely seen in the outside world growing on the peak of the mountain, and there were even some rare and exotic beasts living there. More importantly, there was a pressure near the summit. It was impossible to fly at the summit, and walking speed was also very slow. In this way, they could have flown over the summit of dozens of miles in the blink of an eye. But if they were in the middle of it, they would be no different from ordinary martial artists, and they would have to proceed on foot. All of you enter quickly. You only have 1 day, and you will be automatically transported out after 1 day. If you haven't obtained any vital energy by then, and your ranking is below 100, don't blame me for not giving you a chance, the true man said. Everyone landed one after another. When they were about 10 feet from the ground, a tremendous pressure suddenly pressed down from above and all around them. They tried their best to revolve their vital energy, but they couldn't resist it, and were forced to fall from the sky. At the same time, the pressure from the side forced everyone to deviate from their direction. Many groups that had formed alliances or were about to form a group were broken up. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by the dense sounds of collisions like raindrops, the 200 selected students landed. Looking in all directions, the fog here was several times thicker than when seen from the sky. Looking down from the clouds, one could see a mile away, but in the depths of the fog, one could not even see 100 meters. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult for the separated teams to reunite even if they wanted to ascend to heaven. Instead, they would search randomly and reveal their movements, which could easily expose their location. After Su Yu landed, he didn't walk around casually. Instead, he immediately restrained his breath and stood motionless like a wooden stake. He tried his best to use his 5 senses to observe the movements around him. Strangely, as the banging sounds dissipated, his surroundings quickly fell into silence. It was so quiet that only the chirping of the spiritual insects could be heard. When he landed, there were at least 5 people who landed within 3 miles of him, but there was no movement around him, which meant that they were also aware that the environment was special and that they shouldn't move recklessly. The wait went on for a full hour, making people feel as if there was really no one around. Right at that moment, a slight wave of spiritual energy appeared 500 meters to Su Yu's right. Someone couldn't help but move. But after half an hour, a strong wave of spiritual energy suddenly erupted, followed by a faint scream that reached Su Yu's ears. Su Yu sighed silently. The person who had moved first had been killed. Just as Su Yu was about to take advantage of the chaos to move away from the vicinity, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. No. I almost fell into a trap. Su Yu slowly retracted his footsteps and continued to restrain his breath. At that moment, 3 waves of spiritual energy appeared from different directions. Just as Su Yu had initially planned, they took advantage of the chaos to leave the area. But at that moment, a clear scream reverberated through the clouds, accompanied by a loud roar. Ah! It's a trick. Too late. Su Yu heard a familiar cold grunt, and the person's roar stopped abruptly. Then, the entire dense fog shook gently, and a gust of space energy flashed. Someone must have been transported away because his life was in danger. The initial scream was actually the disguise of a cunning disciple, who had deliberately created the illusion that he had been attacked. The goal was to lure the people who were hiding out. As expected, The people who were hiding in the vicinity were all lured out, except for Suyu. One of them was even assassinated. Then, the surroundings immediately became chaotic. The remaining 2 people knew that it was a trick and that their breaths had been exposed. There was no longer a need to hide, and they released their spiritual energy to escape. But this was exactly what the person who had plotted against them wanted. None of you can escape. That person's movement technique was extremely fast, and after a moment, he could faintly hear another scream. After half an hour, there was another indistinct cry for mercy. Among the people who had landed at the same time, 3 of them were quickly eliminated. This made Suyu extremely vigilant. I need to make some preparations. Suyu stroked his chin. When the last indistinct cry for mercy appeared, he immediately left the place. Because he was far away, the mysterious person could no longer detect the spiritual energy fluctuation he emitted. Not long after he left, a young man with a dark face and a sharp expression appeared nearby. After searching for a while, he narrowed his eyes and said, "This person is quite vigilant." He was able to remain calm in such a tense environment and did not reveal his aura. Forget it, it's more important to find Su Yuxian first. Senior Sister Tianyu has warned us not to allow him to pass the selection. When he finished speaking, he plunged into the dense fog. Suyu quietly searched the vicinity of an ancient tree and climbed up the trunk. His movements were extremely quiet. Looking up at the sky, Suyu pondered. There are 2 difficulties in the Purple Cloud secret realm. The first is the pressure. According to each person's different cultivation, different pressures are applied to ensure that everyone loses the ability to sprint and become like ordinary people. The fastest speed is no more than 8 meters per second, and even climbing trees is very strenuous. The second is the dense fog, which ensures that everyone's line of sight is within 100 meters. In this way, it will be impossible to ambush them, and everyone will have an equal chance of encountering another person. In terms of these 2 points, it actually created a relatively fair environment. This method could prevent a group of weaklings from gathering and joining forces to expel the strong, causing the strong to be eliminated and the weak to be elected. Apart from that, the further we go, the fewer targets we can attack. Suyu analyzed secretly. There are a total of 200 people. In theory, obtaining a whiff of the Purple Cloud vital energy means that one has obtained the qualification to enter the glittering jewel wonderland. Those who have achieved their goals will most likely choose a place to hide and wait for the selection to end. Hence, the further we go, the more disadvantageous the selection becomes. This is excluding the situation where there are strong people who have seized the Purple Cloud vital energy many times. For example, the mysterious person just now had eliminated 3 people in a row. After a round of analysis, Suyu quickly determined his target. He had to seize a whiff of the Purple Cloud vital energy in the first half of the day at the latest. The latter half of the day was very risky, and it was highly likely that he would encounter a situation where he could not find any traces of the enemy. Before taking action, Suyu tried to use his soul eyes, slowly releasing the power of his soul eyes. The result made Suyu's eyes brighten slightly. The soul eyes could see through a range of 1,000 meters, expanding his vision tenfold. This 1,000 meters could ensure that when the enemy discovered Suyu, he would have already discovered them. He could even prepare an ambush in advance. With this pair of eyes, Suyu's confidence was assured. Standing on the tree trunk, he raised his eyes and looked around, seeing through a range of 1,000 meters with him as the center. There's no one. After making sure, Suyu climbed down the tree trunk to determine his location. When he landed, he seemed to have landed in the southernmost part of the secret realm. Most of the people had landed in the central region. It seems that the central region is the main battlefield, Suyu thought to himself. After identifying the direction, he immediately rushed toward the central region. 4 hours later, 1/6 of the day had passed. Including the 2 hours he had delayed previously, a quarter of the day had passed. He needed to find a target to attack within the next 2 hours. Otherwise, waiting until the latter half of the day would be extremely disadvantageous. After 4 hours of trekking over mountains and rivers, Suyu had finally reached the edge of the central region on foot. Along the way, he found several traces of fighting. He believed that there were people who had been eliminated. This made Suyu even more anxious to find a target to attack. All of a sudden, Suyu felt an intense wave of spiritual energy. Chapter 971. His gaze penetrated slowly. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, 400 meters. It was not until 1,000 meters, the limit of Suyu's vision, that he finally saw 2 figures fighting each other. He even knew one of them. It was a young man in his mid-20s, with dashing eyebrows and starry eyes. He was quite handsome, and he was senior brother Tang, who was eager to protect the beautiful woman. At the moment, he was fighting a woman in the Purple Cloud Palace's uniform with all his might. Both of them had top-notch 8th-grade almighty cultivation, and their attacks swept across the surroundings. Even though they were 1,000 meters apart, Suyu could feel the fierceness of their moves. If Suyu were to fight with either of them, it would be difficult to win in a short time without using 1 or 2 of his trump cards. The 2 of them had been fighting for a while, and the surroundings were a mess. Both of them were wounded, especially the woman. She was panting heavily. Her spiritual energy had been severely depleted, and her physical strength was severely depleted. Under the gravity of the Purple Cloud's secret realm, her physical strength was greatly depleted. On the other hand, senior brother Tang performed better than the woman, perhaps because he was a man and had undergone body tempering training. If there were no accidents, senior brother Tang would win in the end. Tang Ling, do you really want to fight me to the end? Both of us have top-notch cultivation, and it would be a pity if we were eliminated just like that. The woman retreated after a head-on attack. Tang Ling also stopped, staring at the woman. It was junior sister Chao Ling who attacked first. If I didn't have some skills, wouldn't I have been eliminated by junior sister Chao Ling? If you choose to stop now, I can agree to it, but the blood that has been shed can't. Upon hearing that, Chao Ling smiled sweetly. Senior brother Tang Ling, I was hot-headed just now. Please forgive me for attacking rashly. Here is a bottle of spirit rejuvenation elixir that can quickly replenish spiritual energy and physical strength. I believe it can compensate you a little. If we continue to fight like this, I'm afraid we'll be the fishermen who benefit. Tang Ling frowned. After weighing the pros and cons for a while, he had no choice but to give up. Humph, if we meet in the glittering jewel wonderland, we won't be so lucky. I'll let it go this time, but it won't happen again. Chao Ling was right. Both sides were engaged in a great battle, and the situation was extremely tense. It was very likely that they would be targeted by outsiders. There might even be people eyeing them covetously, waiting for both of them to suffer losses. Hearing this, Chao Ling smiled and threw a jade bottle across the air. Tang Ling was cautious. He did not catch it with his hand. Instead, he rolled it up with his sleeve and rolled it up. After he took a closer look, he smiled. It's indeed an energy rejuvenation pill. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Tang Ling cupped his fists. He did not consume the pill on the spot. Instead, he wanted to bring it to a safe place and examine it carefully before consuming it. As he spoke, he backed off cautiously. However, Chao Ling's face suddenly revealed a faint mocking expression. Senior brother Tang, why don't you take it on the spot? Are you afraid that junior sister will secretly harm you? Hee, do you think you can accept what I give you? Tang Ling retorted. Chao Ling revealed a cunning smile. Of course, junior sister is also worried, so if I want to poison it, it will not be on the pill, but on the smell. Smell? Tang Ling was stunned. His expression changed drastically as he hurled the jade bottle out from his sleeve. However, it seemed to be too late. Suddenly, Tang Ling's body twitched and he foamed at the mouth. As if he had been electrocuted, he fell straight down. Only his eyeballs could move quickly, flickering with shock and panic. I've been waiting for this moment. Chao Ling walked over and giggled. Do you know how to deal with a powerhouse of the same level? I've simulated it in my mind dozens of times. I've even used it in the Purple Cloud secret realm many times. The effect is very good. For the people of the Purple Cloud Palace, the Purple Cloud secret realm was like their own backyard. They could even practice this kind of fighting method at any time. Just like that, Tang Ling was hit. Tang Ling's body twitched uncontrollably. His eyes rolled up, and he looked as if he was about to be teleported out. Chao Ling squatted down and patted his face with a faint smile. Goodbye, Senior Brother Tang. It seems like you'll have to wait 100 years to participate in the glittering jewel wonderland. After saying that, Chao Ling grabbed the purple cloud vital energy above Tang Ling's head. However, the moment she made her move, her expression suddenly changed. Not only did she quickly retract her hand, but she also jumped back quickly. But it was still too late. Tang Ling suddenly flung out a snow-white light from his sleeve and stabbed into Chao Ling's abdomen. The huge force sent Chao Ling flying backward. She crashed into a giant tree and made a crashing sound. Chao Ling covered her abdomen and looked at Tang Ling in disbelief as he slowly got up. You're not poisoned? Tang Ling wiped the white saliva from the corner of his mouth. A mocking sneer appeared on his pained face. Do you think you can fool me with such a small trick? Tang Ling took out a piece of amber from his chest. In the amber, there was a white worm that looked like snow and emitted a faint fragrance. 100 poisons, spiritual cicada? Chao Ling was shocked. The 100 poisons spiritual cicada was a kind of spiritual worm that had been extinct since ancient times. It was rumored that it survived by devouring all kinds of poisonous things in the world. In ancient times, it was often used as a spiritual object to ward off poison. In the current era, it was almost impossible to find a trace of it. Occasionally, there would be fossils that looked like they were wrapped in amber. But even if they were fossils, the faint fragrance they emitted could still neutralize poisons. This was the reason why Tang Ling was safe and sound after being poisoned at first. How could Chao Ling know that Tang Ling had such a treasure with him? Junior sister, it's over. Tang Ling sneered and blasted a cold punch. This punch contained Tang Ling's full strength. The heavily injured Chao Ling was no match for him at all. Chao Ling's life was in danger. A gust of space energy appeared around her, enveloping her and teleporting her out of the area. A whiff of the purple cloud vital energy on top of her head was left behind, and Tang Ling grabbed it. The purple cloud vital energy flew into the top of Tang Ling's head and doubled the original purple cloud vital energy. After that, Tang Ling looked around and was ready to leave immediately to find a place to recover his spiritual energy and stamina. Who's there? Tang Ling suddenly shouted. Su Yu was slightly shocked. Have I been exposed? After thinking for a while, Su Yu slowly retreated. His body had just moved when he suddenly stopped. He stared at an area 1,000 meters away, beyond his sight. In his perception, there was a domineering aura slowly approaching. Tang Ling seemed to have sensed something. His expression was exceptionally solemn as he stared closely at a place 100 meters away. The clouds and mist were tumbling and turbulent, as if a ferocious beast was gradually approaching from the depths of the clouds and mist. The surroundings were silent. The insects stopped chirping, and even the wind gradually quieted down. There was only the clouds that continued to roll over, emitting an unusual oppression. Even Su Yu, who was 1,000 miles away, could feel the unusual oppression. Su Yu had seen many almighty experts, and he had even killed a 9th-grade almighty with his own hand. However, none of the almighty strong men could give him such an oppressive feeling. It was as if he was not facing an almighty, but an all-creation's old monster. Chapter 972. Swoosh. All of a sudden, a strong gust of air separated the heavy mist and shot out. It was extremely fast, leaving behind a series of afterimages. It was impossible to discern its exact form. Tang Ling was facing a formidable enemy. He activated the vital energy in his body and formed a spinning Tai Chi pattern between his palms. The yin-yang fish eye spun rapidly, producing a high-speed rotational force that blew away the clouds nearby. Anything that touched the Tai Chi pattern would be crushed on the spot if it was weak, while anything tough would be bounced off. Su Yu was secretly surprised. Tang Ling still had a trick up his sleeve? According to his estimation, such a defensive power should be able to withstand the power of Bing Wuxin's first sword. An attack from a beginner 9th grade almighty might not be able to do anything to such a defense. Pop! A soft sound was followed by a miserable groan and a dull thud. The Tai Chi pattern was as thin as a sheet and was easily torn in half by the afterimage. It then penetrated Tang Ling's body from the front to the back, penetrating his chest. Blood spurted out from his back. Under the tremendous force, Tang Ling's body was sent flying backward hundreds of meters, landing 100 meters in front of Su Yu. Even at such a close distance, Su Yu could feel the ground shake from the impact. What a powerful physical strength! What shocked Su Yu even more was that after the afterimage penetrated Tang Ling, it slowed down and revealed its true form. It was not a special weapon, but just a withered branch. The withered branch did not slow down and headed straight for Su Yu. It looked like it wanted to kill two birds with one stone. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu dodged to the side. The withered branch almost grazed Su Yu's chest. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the withered branch brought along a strong gust of air that scraped against Su Yu's skin. It even tore his shirt and left a bloody wound on his chest. Su Yu's expression changed as he stared at the black shadow that was gradually appearing in the mist, retreating quickly. This person was dangerous, and it was not wise to fight him head-on. As soon as he moved, the injured Tang Ling finally noticed Su Yu's tracks 100 meters away. Suppressing his injuries, Tang Ling immediately got up and looked at the retreating Su Yu. His eyes lit up as if he had seen hope. "Junior brother Su, save me. Let's fight the enemy together." Tang Ling shouted as he ran in the other direction towards Su Yu. Su Yu's face darkened. Damn it! He wanted to divert the trouble to the strong man so that he could escape. Whoosh! At that moment, a sharp piercing sound tore through the sky. Afterimages appeared one after another, and their speed was astonishing. To them, whose bodies were suppressed by the gravity, it was impossible for them to dodge. Fortunately, the branch was aimed at Tang Ling. Tang Ling turned around and his expression changed drastically as he cried out, "Stop!" As he spoke, he quickly changed his direction and shot towards Su Yu. Puff! The withered branch brushed past his shoulder, and the powerful force blew his entire arm into pieces, turning it into a bloody mess. However, he endured the excruciating pain and fled in Su Yu's direction, forming a straight line with him and the strong men behind him. Once his opponent shot out another withered branch, Su Yu might not be able to react as quickly as him, even if he tried to dodge it with all his might. The result was that the withered branch had killed Su Yu. The strong man had no choice but to stop and collect Su Yu's purple cloud vital energy. Su Yu had seized the opportunity to escape. In the blink of an eye, the disaster had shifted twice. Su Yu's eyes were cold. "Tang Ling, there's no enmity between us. Do you think I'm easy to bully?" Now that things had come to this, there was no need for Tang Ling to hide. With a ferocious smile, he said, "Junior brother Su, I'm sorry. I'll say the same thing again. Come back in 100 years. At the same time, Tang Ling tossed a shimmering talisman at Su Yu with a backhand. Body-securing talisman. Explode. With a soft shout, the talisman exploded, and a large mass of green light shot out from it, enveloping Su Yu in an instant. Su Yu suddenly felt the pressure around him double, like a mortal falling into deep water. His movements were several times slower, and he could not move freely at all. At that moment, the mysterious man in the mist threw out the third withered branch. The withered branch shot straight like an arrow released from a bow, intending to kill both of them at the same time. "Goodbye, junior brother Su." Tang Ling sneered and stuck a yellow talisman on his body. His speed suddenly increased by 3 times. Although the withered branch was fast, he could easily avoid it. Faced with the sudden danger, Su Yu's eyes were cold. "Senior brother, I think it's better if you come back in 100 years. If he was heartless, how could Su Yu be righteous?" "Seal of time," Su Yu bellowed. His left eye was filled with purple light, and a purple flying dragon circled around it, entangling Tang Ling. In an instant, Tang Ling's shifting body stopped abruptly, as if he had lost control of it. Only his mind was still active. His mind was filled with panic and anger. Unfortunately, the withered branch did not give him enough time to react. Poof! Like a watermelon being pierced, Tang Ling's head was pierced through on the spot. At the critical moment, the space around him fluctuated and teleported him away, leaving the purple cloud vital energy above his head. The withered branch did not slow down, heading straight for Su Yu, who was frozen in place. Su Yu's right eye was filled with red light. Space vortex. A mass of vortex appeared, sucking in the attacking withered branch and teleporting it to an unknown space. At the same time, Su Yu struggled out of the range of the green light, his body regaining the ability to move. Fortunately, the effect of the talisman was limited. Otherwise, he would have been killed by Tang Ling today. After escaping from the talisman, Su Yu did not even take a second look at the purple cloud vital energy. He immediately disappeared into the mist. Just as he was about 100 meters away, 2 figures broke through the mist behind him. It was a man and a woman. The man was handsome and majestic, with a high nose bridge and a tall, dignified appearance. He exuded strong confidence from head to toe like a king. Ordinary people could not help but feel ashamed of their inferiority in front of him. His cultivation had even reached the peak of 9th grade Almighty. One could even feel that he was a step further than a 9th grade Almighty, as if he had stepped into the all creations level. The powerful feeling of being between the Almighty and all creations was awe-inspiring. Be it in terms of appearance or cultivation, the man in front of them was a rare sight in the world. Beside him was a woman dressed in a green dress. She was elegant, natural, and otherworldly, giving off a sense of infinite gentleness and beauty. She followed closely behind the handsome man, her beautiful eyes gazing at the man in front of her. Love flickered in her eyes at times, confusion at other times. "Brother Taishu, it seems like someone has been eliminated," the woman in the green dress said softly. The young woman in a jade green dress spoke in a gentle voice, and her white and tender palm that was fine like water lightly gestured to grab the violet sky true chi before her and pass it over to the handsome man. Her thoughtful gesture made countless men fall for her. The woman in front of them was the number 1 female heaven ruler of the blessed and heavenly lands, Lu Chi. Her cultivation was superior to all female practitioners, her beauty was unparalleled, and her personality was gentle. She was the dream lover of the continent's martial artists. However, if they knew who Lu Chi's lover was, they would only be envious, not jealous. The handsome man was none other than the number 1 heaven ruler of the blessed and heavenly lands, Gu Taishu. Ever since he had made a name for himself, he had never been defeated. His path of cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he had reached the peak of the Almighty before the age of 25. Even before the age of 20, he had already reached his current level. Everyone understood that what he lacked was an opportunity to cross the threshold of the all creations. It was even rumored that Gu Taishu had many opportunities to break through to the all creations level, but he had delayed it until now because he wanted to break through with the 9 fairy elixir. Such a peerless strong man of the same generation made the men who admired Lu Chi not even dare to be jealous. They could only be envious. Who in the blessed and heavenly lands was worthy of Lu Chi? Apart from Gu Taishu, there was no one else. Gu Taishu took it expressionlessly, his eyes fixed on the direction in which Su Yu had escaped. He frowned slightly. One escaped, and he seems to be proficient in some special techniques. They were far away, so they couldn't know what time and space magical powers Su Yu had used. Lu Chui said, "It's just one who escaped. Besides, Brother Taishu doesn't have to do anything. I believe he can be eliminated." The direction in which he escaped seems to be the direction in which Meili is pursuing a female practitioner from the Red Blood Palace. Gu Taishu nodded nonchalantly. "Right, let's go. According to the leader's instructions, try your best to eliminate the Red Blood Palace's students." When he finished speaking, the two of them disappeared in the dense fog like a pair of goddesses. In the outside world, the corners of the factions surrounded the Purple Cloud secret realm. From time to time, students from various factions were transported out, causing many to sigh. Swish! Right at that moment, Tang Ling was transported out by the power of space, groaning in pain. His head had been repaired, and he seemed unharmed, but the lingering pain did not dissipate immediately. Mo Tianxian held him in place and said discontentedly, "Why did you come out so soon?" Tang Ling was one of the top 30 in the Red Blood Palace. With a cultivation of 8th grade almighty, as long as he wasn't too unlucky or careless, he should be able to enter the top 100. Besides, not long ago, he had successfully eliminated an 8th grade almighty female student from the Purple Cloud Palace. Before Mo Tianxian could rejoice, Tang Ling was immediately eliminated. Tang Ling clenched his teeth. He was eliminated by Gu Taishu, so it was reasonable to blame the other party. But this was a fair comparison. If he blamed the other party for being too strong, wouldn't he be criticizing himself for being too weak and incompetent? "It's Su Yuxian," Tang Ling said angrily. Of course, he couldn't blame it on his own incompetence. Mo Tianxian frowned. "You mean him? What happened?" Tang Ling clenched his teeth and said, "He colluded with external enemies and tricked me with strange techniques. That's why he was eliminated." "Is that so?" Mo Tianxian said coldly. If it had been someone else, Mo Tianxian wouldn't have believed it. Was there a need for a disciple of the same faction to collude with outsiders? But if it was Su Yuxian, everything was possible. From her point of view, not only did Su Yuxian have no background, but even his past was a blank slate. There were many suspicious points. She couldn't help but glance at the true man of the Purple Cloud. Could Su Yuxian be a mole planted by the Purple Cloud Palace? In this regard, the true man of the Purple Cloud smiled without saying a word. He didn't explain. The strong man of the Red Blood Palace had been eliminated by his own people. As a member of the Purple Cloud Palace, of course, he would take it as a joke. How could he explain it? His attitude further confirmed Mo Tianxuan's suspicions. This Su Yuxian, when he comes out, I'll teach him a lesson." Mo Tianxian was annoyed. In the secret realm, after Su Yu escaped, he still rushed to the central area. Calculating the time, half a day had passed. If he didn't seize a whiff of the Purple Cloud vital energy, the situation would be quite grim. Clang! All of a sudden, the sound of metal clashing reached his ears. Someone was fighting again. Su Yu's eyes lit up, and he immediately snuck forward. When he was 1,000 meters away, he used his transparent eye to secretly observe the movement in front. He wouldn't have known if he didn't look, but once he did, Su Yu's face changed slightly. 1,000 meters away, two groups of phantoms were exchanging blows. Their speed and movement techniques didn't seem to be suppressed by gravity at all. How could this be? Su Yu was surprised. In the outside world, the speed of both of them was at least at the level of a 9th grade fairy. Chapter 973. Even a 9th grade almighty might not be able to defeat such a speedy martial artist. Bang! Bang! The two of them fought fiercely, then stopped for a short while. One of them was Gongsun Wuxia, who was wearing a black and white pleated dress and holding the heavens-made divine crossbow. The other was a short and dashing young girl, who was wearing a leopard skin tight suit. Both of them were petite and dainty, but the difference was that Gongsun Wuxie was clever and eccentric, while the young girl was as agile as a demonic beast. The biggest difference was Gongsun Wuxie's agility was due to the pair of wind-fire wheels under her feet, which made her extremely fast. This was under the suppression of the secret realm, so she only had the speed of a 9th-grade fairy. If she had been in the outside world, her speed would have surpassed that of a 9th-grade almighty. Upon closer inspection, one could sense that it was an extremely high-grade magical treasure, far surpassing a top-grade spiritual artifact. It was almost at the level of a semi-manufactured fairy artifact. In the whole world, there were only a few people like her, who had a few semi-manufactured fairy artifacts. Moreover, based on this little girl's character, she might have hidden many semi-manufactured fairy artifacts to use at the critical moment. On the other hand, the young girl in the leopard skin was relying on her own speed. This surprised Suyu a lot. A semi-manufactured fairy artifact might have been suppressed less, which was why it could burst forth with speed, but how could a young girl with a mortal body do it? "Little savage, how dare you chase after me? Humph, I'll kill you here today," Gongsun Wuxie said with a smile. Her eyes lit up, and the wind-fire wheels under her feet rotated rapidly, bringing her along as they shot toward the young girl in the leopard skin. The young girl's tanned face was filled with fear and anger. "Shameless! If you have the ability, let's have a fair fight. What's the point of using magical treasures?" She had thought that she was chasing an ordinary 9th-grade fairy, but unexpectedly, she kept taking out all kinds of talismans, which caused her endless trouble. In the end, she even took out 2 semi-manufactured fairy artifacts. This made her extremely depressed. By now, her physical strength had declined greatly, but her opponent was relying on semi-manufactured fairy artifacts and had not suffered any damage. If this went on, she would surely be killed by the heavens-made divine crossbow. Fair? One-on-one? Isn't it fair? Gongsun Wuxie smiled evilly, raising her hand to shoot the heavens-made divine crossbow. A fire-based talisman shot out, turning into a massive flame that could destroy 9th-grade almighty. The young girl bit her lip and gave up on chasing after Gongsun Wuxie. She turned around and fled. Her nose twitched slightly, as if she was trying to lock onto a certain direction based on the smell. "Come with me if you can." The girl turned around and provoked. Gongsun Wuxie chuckled. "You want to lead me to a certain place? Are you dreaming? I'll finish you off right here." Crash! Gongsun Wuxie then took out a white object from her sleeve. It looked like a few white bones, and they were only as thick as a little finger. She stabbed it into the ground. Immediately after, gigantic bones that were 3 zhang thick suddenly shot out from the ground all around the young girl. The top of the giant bone curved, forming a closed top. As a result, a cage of bones with a circumference of 1,000 feet was formed. The girl snorted coldly and punched the white bone with her fist. With a gasp, the girl looked at her fist, which had a bloody mark on it, and said angrily, "A semi-manufactured fairy artifact made from the bones of a stage for all creation's old monster? Another semi-manufactured immortal artifact. Hee, accept your fate, little savage." Gongsun Wuxie smiled and raised the heavens-made divine crossbow again, aiming at the young girl in the cage. Once the flames engulfed the cage, the young girl had nowhere to run. The young girl's expression changed. Suddenly, she squatted down. Her hands were like the claws of a pangolin, and she quickly dug out the soil on the ground. Then, she plunged into it and continued to dig. Gongsun Wuxie said, "Humph, if I let you escape like this, how can it be called a semi-manufactured fairy artifact?" Gongsun Wuxie grabbed with her 5 fingers, and the cage of bones separated from the soil. Even the young girl who had burrowed into the ground was brought out. Looking closely, the bottom of the cage was also closed. The young girl was brought into midair by the cage and hung up. In this way, she had no ability to hide at all. Seeing that there was no hope of escape, the young girl was anxious and scared. She kept spinning in the cage, and her eyeballs were about to fall out. Suyu was speechless. How was this being hunted? It was clearly a one-sided torture. Little savage, are you going to hand over the purple cloud vital energy obediently, or do you want me to send you on your way? Gongsun Wuxia flashed an evil smile. The young girl hugged the cage of bones, a rebellious expression on her face. Despite the tears of grievance in her eyes, she had no intention of giving in. I won't beg you. If you want to kill me, just kill me. At most, I'll come back in 100 years. Her simple words exposed her intellect. Who could say what would happen in 100 years? By then, the glittering jewel wonderland might not even exist. Gongsun Wuxia slowly lowered the heavens-made divine crossbow that she had raised, and the corners of her mouth cracked into a devilish smile. Seeing that smile, Suyu could not help but feel pity for the young girl. She was done for. Little savage, if you can promise me one thing, I can let you go. Gongsun Wuxia flashed a sweet and adorable smile, which was very different from before. The young girl thought about it and said, Don't try to tempt me into agreeing to unfair conditions. No, no, no. I'm the fairest of all. Gongsun Wuxia smiled. You want to enter the glittering jewel wonderland and I want to enter too, right? The young girl nodded. Yes. You want to get the purple cloud vital energy, and I want to get the purple cloud vital energy, right? The young girl thought about it and felt that she was right. Yes. You and I have the same destination and goal, don't we? The young girl crossed her arms in front of her chest and said thoughtfully, Yes, we both want to enter the glittering jewel wonderland, and we both want to get the purple cloud vital energy. Then, you and I are actually like-minded, aren't we? The young girl was startled. She felt that something was amiss, but she could not put her finger on it. She nodded her head blankly. Yes, I guess so. Then, like-minded people should join forces to achieve their goals more easily, right? Join forces? The young girl felt that something was amiss, but she had already been led into a dead end by Gongsun Wuxia. She nodded and said, That seems right. We should join forces, but you're my captive now, aren't you? Gongsun Wuxia continued. Although the young girl was unwilling to admit it, the current situation was irrefutable. Yes. Then, if IF*CK you now and turn you from a captive to my comrade, you'll owe me a favor, right? A favor? The young girl felt that something was amiss, but she could not find a reason to refute it. She said foolishly, Yes. Yes, since you owe me a favor, you should repay it, right? Gongsun Wuxia took out a white jade pendant, which contained a faint mortal fairy's strength. How about this? I haven't thought about how to repay the favor. I hope you can promise to do one thing for me in the future. Before I think about it, you can inject a drop of your blood essence into the jade pendant as a promise. The young girl stared at the jade pendant vigilantly. She knew that it was a magical treasure that could control the owner of the blood essence through the blood essence. Only by completing some kind of will contained in the blood essence could it be removed automatically. After thinking about it, the young girl nodded. Inject a drop of blood essence and inject a wisp of will into it, which meant that she had fulfilled one of Gongsun Wuxia's requests, and it was a request that she was capable of doing. Swoosh! The blood essence sank into the white jade pendant, and white light flashed. In the depths of Gongsun Wuxia's eyes, a cunning smile appeared, as if her plan had succeeded. She put away the jade pendant with a smile and released the young girl. She walked forward casually, patted her shoulder, and said boldly, From now on we're like-minded friends. Let's fight for the purple cloud vital energy together. The young girl nodded vigorously, revealing a serious and determined expression. Yes, let's fight for the purple cloud vital energy together. Watching the two of them leave, Suyu clicked his tongue. He had witnessed with his own eyes how Gongsun Wuxia had conned and deceived a strong enemy, demanding a bottomless request, and even tricked him into helping her fight for the purple cloud vital energy. Suyu was full of pity and sympathy for the young girl. Since it was Gongsun Wuxia, Suyu naturally would not attack her. He could only look for another target to attack. Just as Su Yu was about to leave, he suddenly squatted down and stared at the area where Gongsun Wuxie and the young girl had fought. A dark figure flew out from the hazy mist. He landed on the battlefield and looked around vigilantly. Finally, he looked in the direction where Gongsun Wuxie had left and muttered to himself, "Humph, Gongsun Wuxie?" Senior Sister Tianyu said that this woman is also from the Demon Mountain, and it would be best if she could be eliminated. Then, even if Su is lucky enough to enter the glittering jewel wonderland, he will have no help to rely on. When he finished speaking, he followed like a cheetah. He did not notice Su Yu, who was 1,000 meters away, but Su Yu recognized him. His eyes flickered. Senior Brother Lu? This man had threatened Su Yu and tried to stop Su Yu from participating in the glittering jewel wonderland. Now, he was still thinking of eliminating Su Yu, and even Gongsun Wuxie had become his target. Even a clay figurine would get angry after being targeted repeatedly, let alone Su Yu. If they were in the faction, it would be inconvenient to fight in public. But here, what was there to worry about? Su Yu's eyes turned cold and he quietly followed. Gongsun Wuxie and the young girl were a strong team, and both of them excelled in speed. In the central region, they were hardly a match. Su Yu could barely keep up with them, and they had already successfully seized the purple cloud vital energy of 4 people in just an hour. They won every battle easily, and the enemies could not even escape. With 2 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy, entering the top 100 is almost guaranteed, the young girl said contentedly. Gongsun Wuxie curled her lips. No. There's still half a day left, and we need to seize as much as possible. If we encounter a powerful enemy we can't defeat, we can abandon part of the purple cloud vital energy to distract the enemy and seize the opportunity to escape. 1 more whiff of purple cloud vital energy is 1 more life-saving talisman. The young girl thought it was very reasonable. You're so smart. Gongsun Wuxie giggled. It was obvious what she was thinking. The 4 people she had killed were all from the 8 great factions under the jurisdiction of the Purple Cloud Palace. Only the young girl was ignorant and did not see through Gongsun Wuxie's intention of weakening the power of the Purple Cloud Palace. Haha, junior sister Gongsun, why don't I lend you a hand? A soft voice came from the 100-meter mist. Chapter 974. It was Senior Brother Lu. He walked over and stood 100 feet away, ensuring that he had enough reaction distance in front of the two's extremely fast body technique. We are all from the Red Blood Palace, and we share a common enemy. I am willing to help you. Senior Brother Lu grinned. I think it will be safer if we join forces. Gongsun Wuxie had always been scheming against others. How could she trust others so easily? It seems that we don't need your help. Gongsun Wuxie pointed at the 2 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy above her head, and glanced at the 3 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy above Senior Brother Lu's head with caution. 3 whiffs, killing 3 people. This Senior Brother Lu was obviously not a kind person. Now that Gongsun Wuxie's goal had been achieved, why would she need to cooperate with strangers and increase the risk? Half of the time is about to pass. Those who can stay are people with extremely strong abilities like you and me. Although your body techniques are excellent, you may not be able to protect yourselves in the next half a day, Senior Brother Lu said as he looked at the 2 of them. His words were not without reason. The weak had almost been eliminated. Those who continued to hunt in the secret realm were only the top strong people. Meeting them would not be as easy and relaxing as before. Gongsun Wuxie pretended to think, and her small face showed a solemn expression. She pondered for a while and said, Okay, Senior Brother Lu will travel with me. I hope to meet more senior brothers and sisters on the way. Hearing that, Senior Brother Lu smiled slightly. I don't like him, the young girl said with a pout, staring at Senior Brother Lu with hostility. She only recognized Gongsun Wuxie as a like-minded comrade. Gongsun Wuxie laughed and said, Don't be like this. He is also a like-minded friend. Is that so? The young girl stared at Senior Brother Lu like a vigilant little beast. Senior Brother Lu's eyes narrowed slightly, and he revealed a kind smile, but what he got was a cold snort from the young girl. The three of them temporarily formed a united front. Junior sister, what are your plans next? Senior Brother Lu walked over and asked. Gongsun Wuxia said matter-of-factly, didn't you hear it? Go to the more central area and get more purple cloud vital energy. Hearing that, Senior Brother Lu said, I mean, maybe I can provide some useful information. Oh? What do you mean? Gongsun Wuxia rolled her eyes. Senior Brother Lu smiled mysteriously. Of course it's the literal meaning. Before I met you, I found a gang of 3 people in a swamp area in the central area. Gongsun Wuxia's eyes lit up. Which faction do they belong to? How strong are they exactly? They don't belong to any faction, Senior Brother Lu said. They are wandering cultivators who have gathered here. The strongest among them is only a grade 8 fairy, and the weakest is a grade 7 fairy. All 3 of them have obtained the purple cloud vital energy, and they are now hiding in the swamp. Gongsun Wuxia was tempted and she asked, since you've discovered it, why didn't you eliminate it along the way? You even came here to look for helpers? Senior Apprentice Brother Lu said, of course it's because Senior Apprentice Brother can't complete it alone. That swamp is a little strange, as it's constantly changing. Once you step into it, you'll easily fall into it if you don't have agile body movement. I saw with my own eyes that a 5th grade almighty mistakenly entered the swamp in order to chase after those 3 people. He was swallowed on the spot and eliminated. My 2 junior sisters' body movements are remarkable, so I'm sure you'll be able to walk in the swamp like it's flat ground. Hence, I'm here to tell you about those 3 people. Swamp area? Gongsun Wuxia looked at the young girl. The young girl nodded coldly. Yes, there is indeed a swamp in the central region, called the Rulan Swamp. If you've cultivated special techniques, you'll be able to adapt to the dangerous swamps in the swamp. It's indeed a suitable hiding place. I reckon that there might be more than just those 3 people hiding there. The more people hiding there, the more hunters there would be. After pondering for a moment, Gongsun Wuxia looked expectant. All right, let's go to the Rulan Swamp. The 3 of them set off immediately. Not long after they left, Suyu rushed over from 1,000 meters away. He stared in their direction and murmured to himself, Rulan Swamp? What is Senior Brother Lu up to? With Gongsun Wuxia and the young girl, Senior Brother Lu couldn't do anything about their strength alone. If he attacked forcefully, he would most likely be killed instead. He must have made some arrangements in the Rulan Swamp. If Suyu showed himself now, he wouldn't be able to expose Senior Brother Lu. Hence, he might as well follow them and act according to the situation. An hour later, the fog in front of them became even thicker, and the water vapor gradually increased. The ground under their feet was no longer solid soil, but a muddy path. They seemed to be approaching a place with abundant water. We've arrived at the Rulan Swamp. According to the marks I left on the road, it should be less than 300 meters away from the 3 of you. Junior sisters, get ready, Senior Brother Lu said in a low voice and vigilantly. Gongsun Wuxia stared at her surroundings, her toes tapping lightly on the ground like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. The mud was soft and muddy, but her and the young girl's feet were clean and bright, without a speck of dust or dirt. It was because of this high-speed movement that they were able to walk on flat ground. On the other hand, half of Senior Brother Lu's body had already sunk into the mud, and it was very difficult for him to take a step forward. If he forced himself to continue, he would likely encounter a whirlpool hidden under the mud, and he might be engulfed by it. It was very dangerous. Junior sisters, I can only send you this far. The rest is up to you, Senior Brother Lu said helplessly as he stopped in his tracks. Gongsun Wuxia glanced at his situation and nodded. All right, take care. When she finished speaking, she stepped into the fog with the young girl and ran 300 meters away. After walking 200 meters, When they could no longer detect each other's presence, Gongsun Wuxie suddenly pulled the young girl and quickly changed their direction. They made a circle and walked back instead of running 300 meters away. What's wrong? Why didn't you kill those 3 guys? The young girl asked, puzzled. Gongsun Wuxie sneered. You want to fool people with such a small trick? That senior brother Lu is not trustworthy. I think what awaits us 300 meters ahead is definitely not the 3 weaklings that he said. It could be a trap. Now let's go back and see what he is doing. Wouldn't it be clear at a glance? Gongsun Wuxie's eyes flickered with wisdom. After a long while, when they rushed back to the place where the 3 of them had separated, they found that senior brother Lu was no longer there. There were no signs of him struggling to get out of the mud where he had sunk into it. There was only a hole that he had easily gotten out of, and a line of footprints that extended 300 meters away. Obviously, after they left, senior brother Lu had left the swamp and followed them secretly. Judging from the depth of the footprints in the swamp, senior brother Lu seemed to have some way of defying gravity and walking in the swamp as if it were flat ground. Humph, there is indeed a problem. Let's follow him and give him a surprise. Gongsun Wuxie sneered and followed him with the young girl. At this moment, senior brother Lu was curled up in a cluster of reeds floating in the swamp 300 meters away. His eyes were fixed on the fog in front of him, and his brows were furrowed from time to time. Strange, they were killed so quickly without even making a sound. Staring at the thick fog in front of him, senior brother Lu's eyes were full of fear, and his aura was restrained very skillfully. After waiting for about half an hour, senior brother Lu confirmed that there was no sound, and he couldn't help but say, "It seems that they most likely won't come back. I heard that Gongsun Wuxie is called the Eastern Heretic in the Outer Sanctum, and she is clever and strange. But now it seems that she is just SOSO and she was killed just like that." Getting up slowly, senior brother Lu stepped on a green leaf that was as tall as a human, and slowly slid backward in the swamp. It was with this method that he could step on the swamp without sinking. Chapter 975. A soft shout reverberated in the mist. The clouds parted, and 2 petite figures appeared in front of them. "Why are you?" Senior brother Lu was startled. Why were they behind him? Gongsun Wuxie crossed her arms in front of her chest and glanced at the treasure at his feet. She said with a faint smile, "Senior brother Lu, you can walk. You really made me worried." The young girl, Mei Li, had a cold look on her face. "Humph! I knew you were up to no good. Sister Wuxie is right. You are harboring evil intentions. Is there any danger ahead?" Senior Marshal brother Lu was shocked. His expression changed several times before he smiled apologetically. "Junior Marshal sisters, you've misunderstood. Senior Marshal brother felt uneasy letting the 2 of you go alone, so he decided to take the risk and come here to check on the 2 junior Marshal sisters." Gongsun Wuxie waved the heavens-made divine crossbow in her hand and said with a smile, "Oh, senior brother, you must be very disappointed with the situation." Mei Li touched her teeth, and her right foot moved in the swamp. She looked angry as if she was about to attack. Now that things had come to this, trying to resolve it with flowery words was no different from a fool's dream. Senior brother Lu's heart thumped. Things had gone beyond his expectations, or rather, he had miscalculated. Gongsun Wuxie was more cunning than he had expected. His plan had failed, and he had fallen into a passive situation. Junior sister, when possible, one should forgive and forget. If we fight here, neither of us will benefit. To tell you the truth, there is a faction that is not friendly with the Red Blood Palace ahead, and there are a few extremely powerful disciples there. If they are alarmed, we will both be in trouble, senior brother Lu said in a low voice. Gongsun Wuxie set up the heavens-made divine crossbow and sneered. "You are the one who will be in trouble, not us?" She believed that with her and Mei Li's speed, no one in the entire mystery realm could catch up with them. No matter how powerful they were, they lacked movement techniques and speed. What could they do to them? On the contrary, Even if Senior Brother Lu was not eliminated by them, he would inevitably be eliminated by that group of people. Senior Brother Lu's face suddenly turned gloomy. Gongsun Wuxie, think carefully. Who are you offending by eliminating me? His heart was thumping, and he was extremely nervous. He had waited so long for the glittering jewel wonderland. If he was eliminated here, wouldn't he miss a great opportunity? No matter what, he could not be eliminated. He was already regretting getting rid of Gongsun Wuxie along the way. I was too careless. Haha, whether I forgive you or not, your senior sister Tianyu, who thinks highly of herself, might not accept this favor from me. Instead, she might think that it's because I fear her and feel that it's only natural. Since that's the case, do I have a reason to let you go? Whoosh! Gongsun Wuxie shot the heavens-made divine crossbow mercilessly. Powerful fire attribute runes erupted with raging flames that surged into the sky. Faced with a powerful blow that could destroy even a peak 9th grade Almighty, how could Senior Brother Lu, who was only a 7th grade Almighty, dare to take it head-on? Gongsun Wuxie, you will regret this. Senior Brother Lu urged the dark green leaf beneath his feet, and with a spin on the spot, he dashed to the side. Bang! The shockwave brought about by the powerful flames splashed soil all over the sky. Senior Martial Brother Lu, together with his leaf magic treasure, was thrown off balance. Seeing that he was about to be destroyed by the raging flames, Senior Brother Lu let out a loud roar. The leaf magic treasure emitted a soft green light, wrapping him up like a dumpling. When the raging flames attacked, the dark green leaves gradually withered and were gradually burned away. However, Senior Brother Lu, who was inside it, managed to escape. Let's see how many magic treasures you have. Gongsun Wuxie launched another attack. Senior Brother Lu was both shocked and furious. He had yet to recover from the previous attack, and now he had to face the same terrifying attack. Gritting his teeth, Senior Brother Lu threw out 3 dark green leaves in a row. 2 of them grew in the wind, forming a giant leaf that was 1,000 feet long. 2 of them joined together, forming a huge wall that separated Senior Brother Lu from the exploding flames behind him. At the same time, the last dark green leaf wrapped around Senior Brother Lu. Like a stone puppet, he rolled rapidly above the swamp. His speed was extremely fast, not any slower than Gongsun Wuxie's and the young girl's body movement technique. In just 2 or 3 breaths, he had escaped more than 100 feet away. Once he was out of the sight of the 2 girls and restrained his aura, he would be considered to have successfully escaped. Meili, I'll leave him to you. Gongsun Wuxie snorted coldly. She once again urged the heavens-made divine crossbow to destroy the dark green leaves that were shrouding them. Meili gritted her canine teeth and said fiercely, "How dare he scheme against me? I'll beat him to death." With a whistling sound, Meili broke through the wall of fire and headed straight for Senior Brother Lu. Gongsun Wuxie followed closely behind. The 2 girls chased after Senior Brother Lu with a murderous aura. Senior Brother Lu's expression changed drastically. He urged the dark green leaf to wrap around him and flee quickly. Panic was written all over his face. He no longer had the leaf, so he could no longer stop the 2 girls. Once this leaf was used up, there would be no way for him to escape. He had been the hunter just now, but now he was the pathetic prey. Where do you think you're going? Gongsun Wuxie laughed coldly. She followed Meili 100 feet away, locking onto Senior Brother Lu's aura. However, at this moment, Gongsun Wuxie seemed to have sensed something. The jade pendant on her chest pulsed rapidly, as if it was warning her. Meili, be careful. There's danger. Gongsun Wuxie said. She quickly took out a few thumb-sized bones and threw them around her. Immediately, white skeletons grew from the depths of the ground and surrounded her. If she had sensed it, how could Meili, who was as sensitive as a beast, not have sensed it? Who's there? Meili's exposed arms, neck, and legs suddenly gushed out of her body, streaks of mystical runes. Her skin turned from dark to the color of wheat, which was extremely shiny. From afar, she looked like a wheat-colored metal man. The faint sound of something breaking through the air caused the air to tremble. However, the chirping of the cicadas came from all directions, making it impossible to determine the specific direction. Swoosh! Suddenly, a blood-red arrow light seemed to appear out of thin air and landed 50 feet in front of Gongsun Wuxie. At such a close distance, no matter how fast Gongsun Wuxie's movement technique was, there was no room for her to turn around. Fortunately, she was prepared. She used the white bone cage and sealed herself within it. The white bones let out a soft sound and blocked the blood-red arrow light. Surprisingly, the extremely tough bones were nailed into them by the arrow light. Looking over, a blood-red feather arrow was coldly inserted into the white bones. If she had been shot just now, Gongsun Wuxie's body would have been penetrated by the powerful force, causing it to explode. At the same time, Mei Li was also attacked by the arrow. Ding! The sound of metal colliding was heard, followed by a muffled groan. Mei Li's petite body was crushed by the red light and flew backward, crashing into the white bones. Her body couldn't block the arrow, and her shoulder armor was pierced through. This was the result of her trying her best to avoid being hit in the vital parts at the critical moment. Gongsun Wuxie immediately let go of the cage and pulled the injured Mei Li in. Her eyes were cold as she stared into the depths of the mist. A great sense of crisis came over her. As for Senior Brother Lu, he had already left the moment the blood-red arrow light appeared. After 300 meters, he looked behind him with lingering fear and wiped his cold sweat. Luckily, they didn't find me. Recalling his embarrassing state, he couldn't help but laugh hideously. However, those two little B*****s have finally been eliminated, right? They want to eliminate me? In their dreams. Putting away the leaf, he was about to get up and leave this area as soon as possible. However, at this moment, a clear voice suddenly fell into his ears. I see that you're very skilled at rolling on the ground. Why do you need to get up? Isn't it better to continue rolling? Chapter 976. Senior Brother Lu was shocked at first, but when he saw Su Yu's face, he was dumbfounded. It's you. Coming to his senses, Senior Brother Lu immediately looked around. When he was sure that Su Yu was alone, he was pleasantly surprised. Are you alone? It was unbelievable that Su Yu would appear in front of him alone. He was worried about not being able to find Su Yu and fulfill Senior Sister Tianyu's request. Su Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said calmly, Oh? Senior Brother Lu, do you want me to be alone or with many people? Senior Brother Lu removed the emerald green leaves from his body. The leaves immediately turned yellow and lost their spirituality. Straightening up, Senior Brother Lu did not hide his hostility at all. He sneered. I don't know if you're really stupid or just pretending to be. Senior Sister Tianyu warned you, and yet you still dare to appear in front of me. That's fine, but how dare you speak so rudely? If I don't eliminate you, it'll be intolerable. Su Yu was unruffled. Is that so? Aren't you afraid that Palace Mistress Mo will question me after I'm transported out? Senior Brother Lu smiled. Complain all you want. Based on my observation, the number of strong men who can stay in the Purple Cloud secret realm this time probably doesn't exceed 100 people, and the Red Blood Palace counts every single one of them as a candidate. Do you think that Palace Mistress Mo will make things difficult for a pillar of the faction who's about to enter the glittering jewel wonderland to look for opportunities just for an eliminated person? There were many strong men who continuously eliminated acquaintances. Therefore, it was likely that more than 100 people would be eliminated in the end. Among the 60 people from the Red Blood Palace, those who could enter the top 100 might be lower than expected. Under such circumstances, any qualified place was precious. Why would Mo Tianxian seek justice for the eliminated? Su Yu stroked his chin and said with a look of realization, I see. Thank you, Senior Brother Lu, for resolving my worries. Senior Brother Lu said disdainfully, Ridiculous! You don't even know what you're talking about when you're about to die. I'll send you out right now." When he finished, Senior Brother Lou stepped on the swamp and leaped up like a big bird. Vital energy surged from his right palm. The powerful vital energy of a 7th grade almighty condensed into a long spear, piercing through Su Yu's skull from top to bottom. Su Yu's expression did not change. With a shake of his sleeve, a withered black claw appeared. The claw was full of eerie ghost energy, making one shudder with fear. Waves of remnant all creation's mighty force were faintly discernible. Senior Brother Lou, whose face was filled with murderous intent, suddenly felt a wave of all creation's force. His expression changed abruptly, and he retracted the long spear that was about to fall down. He shouted in a deep voice, "Stop! What is that?" From the ghost claw, he felt an indescribable danger. Su Yu held Ghost Claw's arm and slowly lifted it up. "Of course it's to send Senior Brother out." As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his sword at Senior Brother Lou. "How dare you!" Senior Brother Lou was shocked and furious. In his eyes, Su Yu was just a disciple from the outside sanctum. Perhaps he was proficient in Mu words and had some outstanding points, but in terms of cultivation and strength, he was mediocre. He was like an ant that could be stepped on and crushed to death by him at any time. Who would have known that this child was actually hiding such a ghost claw of unknown origin? Its power was astonishing. When Su Yu heard his threat, it was as if Su Yu did not hear it, and the bone claw slammed down from the sky. With a creepy ghost shriek, the ghost energy in the ghost claw surged and formed a 30 feet thick mass of ghost fog. From the mass of fog, a 20 feet long virtual shadow of a ghost claw stretched out and grabbed at Senior Brother Lou, who was in the air. Senior Brother Lou yelled furiously, "You're courting death!" He hurled the long spear in his palm at once. Screech! The ear-piercing sound of the explosion shook the surroundings as the two collided. The long spear was crushed by the ghost claw, and the virtual shadow of the ghost claw was pierced through as well, leaving a hole as thick as an arm. Near the hole, cracks spread out in all directions until the ghost claw shattered. When the virtual shadow of the ghost claw struck Senior Brother Lou, all that was left was a mass of remnant ghost energy, which was extinguished by Senior Brother Lou's palms. The two collided head-on, and they were equally matched. Senior Brother Lou's face was gloomy, and he stared at the ghost claw in Su Yu's palm. Su Yu felt a little regretful. After all, the all-creation's mighty force in the ghost claw was only a few feeble whiff. After killing the Shao's family master last time, more than half of it had been consumed. Now that its power was greatly diminished, it would be very difficult to kill a 7th grade almighty like Senior Brother Lou. Now that the all-creation's mighty force in the ghost claw was almost exhausted, it had lost most of its power, except for its sturdiness. It was difficult to use it now. "Fine, I'd like to see how many more treasures like this you have." Senior Brother Lou was furious. His hands drew a wonderful arc in front of his chest, and a mass of clear radiance appeared on top of his head. Divine Seal. He was going to use the power of his own Divine Seal. Generally speaking, the Divine Seal was the strongest power of the Almighty. Once it was used, it would mean the strongest blow. When Su Yu first came into contact with the Almighty, the Divine Seal was what he feared the most. However, after so many battles, Su Yu was much calmer now. Staring at the Divine Seal that his opponent was about to use, he said, "Fine, I'll try the power of the talisman treasure that I've condensed." An ancient, pale yellow talisman fell lightly into his palm, emitting a lustrous brilliance. The pattern of a sun was engraved in the center of the talisman, emitting a piercingly cold aura. At that moment, Senior Brother Lou used the Divine Seal. It was a large, pitch-black seal, and a giant, pitch-black bird was carved on it. Its beak was extremely long and sharp, and it was filled with ferocious inverted teeth. It looked very hideous. After the Divine Seal appeared, the carved ferocious bird's eyeballs flickered, and it flew out of the Divine Seal. With a shrill shriek, the clouds and mist tumbled, and the spiritual energy vibrated. Suyu, who was close at hand, was affected by the sound, and he immediately became restless, unable to calm down. An irrepressible ferocious energy grew madly from the depths of his heart like weeds, causing Suyu to gradually lose his rationality. Soul attack, Suyu said. This unknown ferocious bird was adept at soul attacks that affected one's rationality. If one did not have a way to defend himself, he would soon be controlled by the ferocious bird and become a beast that had lost its rationality. In a duel between experts, a single mistake could determine the outcome of the battle, let alone losing one's rationality. Sure enough, just as Suyu was lost in thought, senior brother Lu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Like a cunning rabbit, his fingers formed into claws, and he struck at Suyu's head. There was no need for him to kill Suyu. All he had to do was make Suyu feel that his life was in danger, and he would be eliminated. Resign yourself to your fate. Under my divine seal, even an 8th grade almighty might not be able to withstand it completely, let alone you. Senior brother Lu said with a victorious smile. Goodbye, junior brother. However, just as he was about to strike Suyu's chest, Suyu's eyes suddenly shone with clarity, and he threw out the talisman in his palm just in time. Indeed, it's time to say goodbye, senior brother. Suyu's lips curled into a smile, and he softly uttered the word, explode. Rumble. All of a sudden, the talisman exploded, and a gigantic blazing sun appeared abruptly. The sunlight that it emitted pierced through the dense fog, illuminating the entire mountaintop in an instant, making it as bright as day. Senior brother Lu was engulfed by the sunlight, and his eyes were so piercing that he could hardly open them. Even Suyu, who was right in front of him, could not recognize him clearly. He let out a startled cry. The heaven-extinguishing divine palm's talisman? Impossible! It was the lost art of the Central Prefecture Guards, and it was the second style that very few people had successfully cultivated. How could a talisman sealed by the moon palm appear in the blessed and heavenly lands? But before he could think about it, senior brother Lu felt a great crisis. It was a crisis that made him feel death. Once such a crisis appeared, he would lose his right to enter the glittering jewel wonderland. No! With a loud roar, senior brother Lu operated the vital energy in his body, condensing an armor on the surface of his body in a futile attempt to withstand the blow. However, the armor condensed by vital energy dissipated like a breeze in the sunlight. Senior brother Lu bellowed indignantly. He was engulfed by a descending space, and soon disappeared in the dense fog, leaving only 3 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy behind. When the sunlight dissipated, the surroundings were once again shrouded in dense fog. But the scene alarmed most of the secret realm. The sudden illumination exposed the traces and locations of many people who were hiding in the dense fog. Of course, the source of the light was even more exposed. Gu Taishu and Lu Chui stood at the peak of a mountain, overlooking the area. Lanrua Swamp, heaven-extinguishing divine palm. Lu Chui frowned slightly. Could it be that someone from the Central Prefecture has sneaked into the 18 blessed and heavenly lands? Gu Taishu's eyes were filled with a profound look, as if he was thinking about something. He said, "It shouldn't be. The Central Prefecture has its own recommendation quota, so there's no need to plant a pawn in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. But the heaven-extinguishing divine palm is the unique skill of the Central Prefecture Guards, and it has never been taught to outsiders. Apart from them, no one else is proficient in it," Lu Chui said. Gu Taishu shook his head lightly. "Indeed, it won't be taught to outsiders. But I know someone who is proficient in the heaven-extinguishing divine palm." "Who is it?" Lu Chui noticed that there was something in Gu Taishu's eyes that she had never seen before. It seemed like excitement, killing intent, and hatred, as if he had discovered an enemy that he hadn't seen for a long time. As far as she could remember, Gu Taishu had never taken any geniuses of the same level seriously, and he had never been defeated. So, how could he be an enemy? All of a sudden, a figure appeared in Lu Tri's mind. If there was really someone who had defeated Gu Taishu, then there was only one person. In the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, Gu Taishu had once been defeated by someone. That person. Lu Tri's delicate body couldn't help but tremble. She gritted her teeth, and her pretty eyes were filled with either anticipation or fear. I don't know, but I'll know once I go over and confirm it. A cold look appeared on Gu Taishu's face as he muttered to himself, I've been waiting for you for a long time. In the distance, Tianyu and Bing Wuqing stood side by side, and they also looked in the direction of the light source. Heaven extinguishing divine palm? Humph, the people of the central prefecture are too bold, Tianyu said coldly. Bing Wuqing smiled sweetly. Only she knew where the heaven-extinguishing divine palm came from. Her pretty eyes flickered slightly, and Bing Wuqing said meaningfully, Do you want to see this person's demeanor? Somewhere, Bai Shanliang was laughing and counting the purple cloud vital energy above his head. He suddenly looked at the end of the light source, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Heaven-extinguishing divine palm? Strange. There's no reason for the central prefecture to plant people here. Moreover, they exposed their identities in such a panic. Aren't they afraid of being besieged by the geniuses of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands? Bai Shanliang's eyes shifted, and he said, Haha, anyway, I've accumulated enough purple cloud vital energy. Why don't we go over and watch the show? In the outside world, the true man of the purple cloud and Mo Tianxian also noticed the abnormality in the secret realm. The true man of the purple cloud raised his eyelids slightly, and then lowered them slowly. He didn't seem surprised. The talisman treasure of the heaven-extinguishing divine palm is rare. I wonder which disciple found it. Mo Tianxian said, It should be the purple cloud palace. Our red blood palace doesn't have such a rich and imposing disciple. Swoosh. Right at that moment, Senior Brother Lu was transported out. Mo Tianxian frowned. You were sent out by the heaven-extinguishing divine palm? Senior Brother Lu realized that he had been transported out, and he couldn't accept the fact that he had been eliminated. The glittering jewel wonderland, the once-in-a-century opportunity of the continent, had passed by just like that. After being stunned for a while, he came to his senses, and his face was full of resentment. Su Yuxian, I will not live under the same sky as you. Destroying one's future was like killing one's parents. Upon hearing that, Mo Tianxian thought to herself, Why is it Su Yuxian again? The true man of the purple cloud couldn't help but look curious. The former was Tang Ling, and the latter was Senior Brother Lu. 2 top experts of the Red Blood Palace had been eliminated by him in a row. If it was luck the first time, was it luck again this time? Haha, Palace Master Mo, it seems that this rich and imposing disciple is from your palace, the true man of the purple cloud said with a smile. Mo Tianxian was embarrassed and annoyed. Su Yuxian. When he came out, she would teach him a lesson. Most importantly, where did the talisman treasure of the heaven-extinguishing divine palm come from? Inside the secret realm. Su Yu eliminated Senior Brother Lu, and the 3 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy that he had obtained, plus the one left behind by Senior Brother Lu, made a total of 4 whiffs, all of which belonged to Su Yu. Including Su Yu's own, there were a total of 5 whiffs of purple cloud vital energy. The 5 whiffs fused to form a purple crown, which was very vague. I wonder what the use of gathering enough purple cloud vital energy to form a solid crown will be, Su Yu said. The mode of seizing the purple cloud vital energy should be a common practice among the students of the Purple Cloud Palace. In the past, the amount of vital energy seized would determine the results, and there would most likely be corresponding rewards and punishments. He just didn't know if there would be rewards and punishments for their competition this time. Having no time to think about it, Su Yu immediately stepped into the swamp ahead, because he could see that Gongsun Wuxia and Mei Li were in great trouble. Gongsun Wuxie and Mei Li were protected by the bone prison, so they were safe and sound for the time being. However, the blood-colored light arrows were endless, one after another. Not only did they seal the two of them in the prison, but they couldn't escape easily. The blood-colored light arrows continued to break through the bone prison, and each arrow hit the previous one precisely, causing the light arrows that were nailed into the bone prison to penetrate it continuously. Gongsun Wuxie was distressed by the sight. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws angrily. "Which B***starred is it? Come out if you dare." The other party remained hidden in the dense fog, and for some unknown reason, he didn't show himself, suppressing the two of them in the prison just like that. It was foreseeable that the other party's means weren't just to suppress them. There must be more powerful means in preparation. The purpose was to annihilate the two of them in one fell swoop. As expected, a strong wave came from the depths of the dense fog, as if some powerful move that had been prepared for a long time was about to be launched. Gongsun Wuxie's ominous premonition grew stronger. She hefted the heavens-made divine crossbow and fired a fire-based talisman at the place where the wave was emanating. Fierce flames covered the sky and covered the earth, and any ninth-grade almighty would be killed in an instant. However, a layer of blood-red light screen appeared in the depths of the dense fog, and it easily blocked the sea of flames outside. Vaguely, Gongsun Wuxie seemed to see an extremely gigantic silhouette. It was 100 feet tall, and it had a burly build. Its eyes were brewing with extremely brilliant yellow halos. That halos was what made Gongsun Wuxie feel threatened. Chapter 977. That figure was definitely not human. Boom, boom. Booming sounds erupted from the giant's eyes like two muffled thunders, causing the fog in the entire space to roll at the same time. Two yellow halos slowly spread out from the giant's eyes, like two poisonous snakes coming out of their cave. The halos contained some kind of supreme power, very close to the all-creation's mighty force. As soon as it appeared, the entire space in the secret realm began to tremble slightly. Everyone in the secret realm felt extremely uneasy, as if they would be transported out of the secret realm at any time. Gu Taishu, Lu Chui, Bing Wuqing, Tianyu, and Bai Shanliang, who were rushing over, all had a change of expression on their faces. All creation's mighty force? Lu Chui's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. The secret realm has special restrictions. All creations, or an all creations attack, will be transported out. What's going on? There had never been such a situation in the secret realm before. Now, there was only one possibility. One of the people participating in the selection had a treasure that surpassed the all creation's mighty force. The Purple Cloud secret realm limited the power below the all creation's level for two reasons. One was to protect the secret realm from being destroyed by the all creation's mighty force, and the other was to ensure the safety of the participants. Although the secret realm could transport those who encountered danger away in time, there was a prerequisite. The power of space transportation was not affected. The all creation's mighty force was a power that could affect space transportation. If it was attacked by the all creation's mighty force, the secret realm could not transport the attacked person out. Even if the participants did not know about this, they should understand the severity of the situation. The person who had used the all creation's mighty force had obviously intended to take the opportunity to kill. But who dared to kill in front of them, and who was the one who was attacked? If there was no great hatred, no one would do so. After all, the leaders of the various sects were guarding outside. If they angered a leader who had lost a disciple, they might not be able to escape safely. Gu Taishu revealed a faint smile. I've finally met an interesting person, and the direction is where the light source is. Bing Wuqing, Tianyu, Bai Shanliang, and the others sped up and rushed over. The remaining experts in the secret realm also sensed the powerful energy. After some thought, they all headed towards the secret realm at the same time. In the outside world, the eyebrows of Mo Tianxian and the true man of the purple cloud twitched at the same time, and hints of murderous intent reverberated in their eyes. All creation's mighty force, but it's suppressed within the limits permitted by the secret zone. Someone is deliberately using this place to kill someone. The true man of the purple cloud narrowed his eyes, and there was a hint of coldness in his words. The suspect was undoubtedly the Red Blood Palace. In the blessed and heavenly lands, only the two great sects had all creation's experts on the surface. Emotianchuan's eyes turned cold. Humph! Do I need to be sneaky if I want to get rid of your geniuses? Upon hearing this, the true man of the purple cloud fell into deep thought. Based on his understanding of Emotianchuan, although this woman did not act according to common sense, she was a person who dared to take responsibility for her actions. Since he denied it, it was highly likely that it wasn't him. The true man of the purple cloud narrowed his eyes and glanced at the leaders of the other 16 major sections. He said coldly, "If anyone is sacrificed because of this, no matter who it is, I will find him and destroy his body and soul." The sect leaders of the 16 sects all wore fearful expressions. They were also curious as to which sect had brought the all creation's mighty force inside. Inside the secret zone, yellow halos shot out of the giant's eyes, like two giant pythons, and headed straight for Gongsun Wuxie and Mei Li. A great crisis enveloped the two of them at the same time. Gongsun Wuxie touched the necklace on her neck subconsciously. A projection of her father was sealed in it. Once she crushed it, she could summon the projection. But if that was really the case, according to the agreement between her and her father, it meant that Gongsun Wuxie had encountered an irresistible danger. For safety's sake, all the risks had to end here. She would return to the severed fairy cliff and lose the right to go out. Therefore, Gongsun Wuxie would never use the projection until the last moment. "Mei Li, let's attack together," Gongsun Wuxie yelled. She set up the heavens-made divine crossbow and shot it at the two dim yellow giant pythons. Mei Li gritted her teeth and bit her little finger. She sacrificed a drop of bright blood essence and threw it into the air. All of a sudden, a turbulent, barbaric aura surged out from the blood essence. A shadow in the shape of a cheetah stood majestically in the void. That figure was like the king of ferocious beasts, emitting absolute power. With a roar, the cheetah pounced forward like a streak of light. Its front claws were extremely sharp, leaving pitch-black lines in the space of the secret realm, as if it was going to split the secret realm in half. This was also a power that was close to the limit of the secret realm. Mei Li's little face quickly turned pale. That drop of blood essence had obviously come at a great price. Gongsun Wuxie's eyes brightened, and she shot out several runes in a row. The runes overlapped and their power soared. Both of their attacks far exceeded the 9th grade Almighty, approaching the all creation's mighty force. The huge commotion shocked the experts who had rushed over. Mei Li's blood-soul summoning technique. She's in danger. Lu Qi's expression changed during the flight. Gu Taishu, who had been calm all this while, frowned. Why is it Li'er? They had never thought that the one who was attacked with extreme power would be Mei Li. As the third-ranked genius expert of the Purple Cloud Palace, she had high hope. Someone had dared to attack her. "You're courting death," Gu Taishu snorted coldly. A crack opened between his brows, and a towering purple light covered more than half of the secret realm. The endless white fog was penetrated, and the invisible gravity that was suppressing people was reduced by half. Therefore, the distance of dozens of miles, for a peak almighty like Gu Taishu, was but a blink of an eye. The power of his bloodline could actually break the suppression of the secret realm. With a hint of coldness and murderous intent, Gu Taishu took a step forward. In the depths of the swamp, the combined attack of Gongsun Wuxie and Mei Li could be considered the ultimate power of the Almighty. Among the 9th grade Almighty, only a few could withstand it. The two attacks each bombarded a giant yellow python. The cheetah that Mei Li had transformed from a drop of blood pounced over with a momentum that could devour mountains and rivers. The shadow of the cheetah and the giant yellow python were entangled on the spot, and they were locked in a stalemate in the void for a moment. However, soon, the cheetah emitted a yellow halo from the inside out, and its body was smashed by the giant python. Gongsun Wuxie's runes and the erupting sea of fire were nothing to the giant yellow python. It swiftly passed through the sea of fire and headed straight for the bone. The two women were shocked. "What kind of secret technique is that?" Mei Li exclaimed. Even Gu Taishu had to be cautious of her blood-soul summoning technique. But in front of the yellow halo, it was extremely weak. Gongsun Wuxie was equally shocked. She had launched so many talismans at the same time, and the power that erupted was still no match for the yellow halo. What exactly was that giant figure? How could its attack be so powerful? There was no time to think. Gongsun Wuxie and Mei Li felt a strong threat of death. The power of space appeared involuntarily around them. The secret realm had sensed their danger and was preparing to transport them away. However, after the space appeared, it immediately became chaotic. Not only did it fail to transport them, but it also densely covered them with tiny space turbulence. Damn it! Gongsun Wuxie grabbed a handful of silver-white talismans from the pocket at her waist, emitting bursts of space power. Space talismans? Mei Li opened her mouth wide in disbelief. Space talismans were the rarest type of talismans, because there were only 10 people who could make them. The 9 great prefectures' kings, the Duanxian Cliff Master. Only 10 supreme strong men of the mortal fairy realm could make space talismans. If one was not their direct descendant, it was hard to imagine that they would deliberately make space talismans and give them to defend themselves. Moreover, Gongsun Wuxie wasn't holding just one, but a handful of them. These talismans were used by Gongsun Wuxie to save her life. Each of them could accurately transport her to a certain distance to avoid danger. But now, the space nearby was chaotic, making it impossible to use space teleportation. We can only fight it head-on. Gongsun Wuxie withdrew the talismans and raised her hand to throw out a talisman engraved with mountains. The mountains were vivid and lifelike, full of charm. 8 layers cliff. The talisman exploded and transformed into 8 cliffs that were 1,000 feet tall. The cliffs were steep and straight, surrounded by white clouds, full of mystery. At the top of the cliffs, densely packed broken swords could be vaguely seen. It was like a sword tomb, giving off a sharp feeling. Severed Fairy Cliff. Mei Li's bright eyes widened in surprise. The cliff in front of them was very much like the rumored Severed Fairy Cliff, an underground king that controlled the dark forces of the continent. Legend had it that the Severed Fairy Cliff was artificially forged with meteorites from outer space. It was extremely hard, and no weapon could break the Severed Fairy Cliff. The shadows of the 8 severed fairy cliffs overlapped, forming 8 layers of defense. Each layer was no less than a 9th-grade peak Almighty Expert's defense. Rumble. 2 streaks of yellow light pierced through the first cliff like pieces of paper. Rumble. Then came the second cliff. Rumble. Rumble. The third. The fourth. The fifth. It was not until the 7th mountain that the speed of the yellow halos finally slowed down. But it was only 10% slower. A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering boom rang out as the 8th mountain was pierced through. The shadow of the 8 mountains was equivalent to the combined defense of 8 9th-grade peak Almighty Experts. However, it was still easily broken by the yellow halos. Then came the white bone cage. With a cracking sound, 3 white bones were ruthlessly destroyed by the yellow halos, shooting toward the 2 people in the bone cage. Gongsun Wuxie gasped. The power of the yellow halos was far beyond her expectations. There was anxiety in her eyes. It was too late to use any method to defend herself. She could only crush the projection jade pendant on her neck and summon her father's projection. But doing so would be equivalent to giving up her freedom. Watch me. At the critical moment, Mei Li let out a low shout and bit her finger again, taking out a drop of blood essence. At this moment, the blood essence transformed into a huge black tortoise shadow, its whole body filled with an ancient aura. Come with me. Mei Li grabbed Gongsun Wuxie and at the last moment, she entered the black tortoise shadow. Rumble! Just then, 2 yellow halos descended. The black tortoise shadow trembled violently, but it managed to hold the yellow halos in a stalemate. Gongsun Wuxia's expression relaxed and she said happily, "You're really powerful." But, as her arms sank, Mei Li closed her eyes. Due to extreme fatigue, she fell into a deep sleep in her arms. After using the power of the blood essence twice, Mei Li fainted immediately. Gongsun Wuxia wasn't much better. She had continuously used the heavens-made divine crossbow, which had consumed most of her vital energy and physical strength. The short fight had already exhausted her. What made her despair was that the black tortoise couldn't block it completely. After a short stalemate, the 2 yellow halos pierced through the black tortoise. The black tortoise shadow dissipated, and the 2 of them were completely exposed. The yellow halos swept towards the 2 of them like lightning. Gongsun Wuxia clenched her teeth, holding Mei Li with one hand and making a final struggle with the other. Heaven and Earth Seal. The moment the black tortoise blocked it, she got a chance to attack. A blue and white seal was tossed in front of him. The seal rotated in the air, and a shocking space suction force erupted from within, sucking everything in its surroundings into the seal. Inside the seal was a man-made space. Once sucked in, it was equivalent to being exiled into an independent space, unable to get out. Such a self-contained space treasure could only be forged with the mortal fairy's strength. With a whoosh, the 2 yellow halos were sucked into the seal. But, before Gongsun Wuxia could rejoice, the seal suddenly trembled, and the surface of its body emitted a flickering light. How is this possible? Gongsun Wuxia was shocked. She had a bad premonition, and she grabbed Mei Li and retreated quickly. However, it was too late to retreat now. The seal suddenly expanded rapidly, from the size of a fist to the size of a head, and its light flickered rapidly. Bang! A loud noise shook the inside and outside of the secret realm, like a bolt from the blue, resounding in all directions. The space treasure, the Heaven and Earth Seal, actually exploded. The space fluctuation that erupted brought about a shocking shock wave of airflow. Gongsun Wuxia and Mei Li were the first to bear the brunt, and they were blown away like dust. Mei Li was shaken out of Gongsun Wuxia's arms, and she flew backward along with the dust that filled the sky. Gongsun Wuxia opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her petite body was sent flying like a stone. What was worse was that the 2 yellow halos were intact, and they shot towards the 2 of them separately. The one that shot towards Gongsun Wuxia was extremely fast, and it arrived in front of her when she was injured. Gongsun Wuxia was in the midst of being wounded, and she didn't even have time to crush the jade pendant on her neck before she was forced into a desperate situation. In her mind, the scenes of her life flashed, and the shadow of death quickly shrouded her heart. "It's over," Gongsun Wuxia murmured, and her vision was covered by the yellow halos. She knew that this was the last color she would see in her life. Just as she was about to close her eyes and accept the fate of death, a ray of purple light suddenly covered the yellow halos. For a moment, Gongsun Wuxia even felt as if time and space had been frozen. When she came to her senses, her waist was already held by a hot and powerful hand, and her body was retreating lightly. Subconsciously, she looked up, and her pupils constricted fiercely. He had snow-white hair, a silver mask, and a pair of eyes that were as deep as the stars. It was as if a universe was hidden within them. The surprise of being saved from a hopeless situation, and the emotion of crying tears of joy, turned into hot tears that rolled down from the corners of her eyes. "Brother Suyu, you came to save me." Gongsun Wuxia choked with joy. She had thought that her life had come to an end, but Suyu had pulled her back from the brink of death at the last moment. The feeling of coming back to life after death was indescribable. She looked at Suyu, who was very close to her, and her heart was pounding. At this moment, she could no longer suppress the emotions in her heart. She stretched out her arms and hooked them around Suyu's neck. Gongsun Wuxia buried her head in his chest and wailed like a child who had been bullied. Su Yu patted her back lightly, his eyes fixed on the yellow halos, and he was exceptionally solemn. The yellow halos gave him a sense of extreme danger. Moreover, apart from the yellow halos, there was an even more dangerous aura not far away from him. Looking sideways, he saw a handsome and tall young man holding Mei's unconscious body. Beside the young man was a gentle and beautiful figure. Looking at the young man, Su Yu's pupils constricted fiercely. Chapter 978. Gu Taishu, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, and the Zhenlong continent. Once, even his doppelganger was a powerful existence that Su Yu had to look up to. They had fought twice. The first time, Hong Luan Vientian had caused trouble, but it had ended in vain. The second time, Su Yu's pure divine decree had been sealed, and his eyes had lost their light. It was only at the end that he managed to fight back and recover his eyes. After so many years, they met again. Compared to the two doppelgangers, the real Gu Taishu was not as aggressive as the phantom. He stood still like a giant mountain, but no one would doubt the terrible power hidden within. This was a man who was intimidating at first glance. Su Yu was sizing him up, and Gu Taishu also looked over, as if he wanted to see through Su Yu's silver mask. Their eyes met, and invisible sparks flew. "We meet again," Gu Taishu said, his eyes filled with murderous intent and coldness. He had not seen through Su Yu's silver mask, but his intuition told him that the person in front of him was Su Yu, the young man from the Zhenlong continent, born in a barren land, the existence who had destroyed his doppelganger. Su Yu took a light breath and said slowly, "Yes, we meet again." The two of them looked at each other. Those who did not know would think that they were old friends who had not met for a long time. They did not know that they were mortal enemies. However, neither Su Yu nor Gu Taishu had exposed the other. Gu Taishu knew that Su Yu was the ruthless demonic man wanted by the Central Prefecture's king, and Su Yu also knew that Gu Taishu and the Central Prefecture's king were inextricably linked. It was because of their mutual fear that they were able to act so calmly. Lu Chui ran over and asked in surprise, "Brother Taishu, do you know Su Yuxian?" Although she did not see the face under the silver mask, Lu Chui still remembered Su Yuxian's voice. "Su Yuxian." Gu Taishu's lips curled into a playful smile. "I remember that you have two women, one with the word and the other with the word Xian." His doppelganger had once incarnated into the heavenly law and controlled the creatures of the Zhenlong continent. How could he not know about Su Yu's two most important women? Lu Chui frowned and stared at Su Yuxian. Her calm heart was constantly fluctuating. That figure had inadvertently overlapped with a certain young figure hidden deep in her mind. What she found most difficult to suppress was that the eyes revealed under the silver mask were so similar. Her intuition told her that there might be some kind of relationship between Su Yu and Su Yu. However, her fiancé, Gu Taishu, was present, so it was not convenient for her to ask. Sensing the indistinct hostility between the two of them, Lu Chui changed the topic and said gently, "Brother Taishu, let's examine Lier's injuries first." Only then did Gu Taishu retract his indifferent gaze. He said, "It's just a superficial wound. He won't die." After handing the unconscious Mei over to Lu Chui, Gu Taishu fixed his gaze on the giant who was shrouded in the hazy mist. The corners of his mouth were filled with coldness. "You touched my people without asking for my permission. No matter who you are or what you are, your fate has already been decided." His calm words were filled with a natural domineering air. He Gu Taishu, the #1 expert of the younger generation in the blessed and heavenly lands. "I've long wanted to spar with you," the giant spoke in the human language. His voice rumbled like thunder. The clouds and mist stirred, and the all-creation's mighty power surged. The two yellow halos that Gu Taishu had dodged circled around and charged at him again. "You didn't understand what I said," Gu Taishu said placidly. Gu Taishu took a step forward and reached out with both palms, each grabbing at the oncoming yellow halos. A shocking scene unfolded. Gu Taishu caught the two halos in his palms. The halos were immensely powerful and contained the all-creation's mighty power. Gongsun Wuxie's many almighty peak defenses were like pieces of paper before the yellow halos. However, Gu Taishu caught the halos with his bare hand. What? The giant gasped in shock. Gu Taishu's face was indifferent as he put his palms together. Crack! Like the sound of eggshells cracking, the two yellow halos were scattered on the spot. Gongsun Wuxie's eyes flickered as she witnessed the scene. She said in surprise, "Brother Yuxian, I'm afraid Gu Taishu's real cultivation has already surpassed the almighty level. Although he hasn't broken through the all-creations, those who have just entered the all-creations might not be his match." Su Yu did not doubt her speculation at all. Gu Taishu himself did indeed possess combat prowess that was beyond common sense. However, Su Yu could only look up to him when he was in the Zhenlong continent. But now, Gu Taishu shattered the yellow halos indifferently and strode forward. The muddy swamp under his feet was boiling under the great pressure, like a pot of boiling oil. Facing the great pressure, the giant was silent for a moment. Instead of panicking, he laughed. He, Gu Taishu, your reputation is well deserved. My innumerable laws and celestial light came from the all-creation's strong men, and every strike is infinitely close to the all-creation's old monster level. Even so, I can't do anything to you. You are indeed a rare genius. There are only a handful of people on the continent who can rival you. The giant said, "It's a waste of talent to stay in a corner of the continent. If you want, I can introduce you to a place where you can display your talent. What do you think?" Su Yu's eyes flickered. The giant's real identity was very mysterious. It didn't seem like he was just a member of a faction. In this world, there weren't many forces that could accommodate a genius like Gu Taishu. Since he dared to say such arrogant words, his background must be extraordinary. "Nothing," Gu Taishu said. "I, Gu Taishu, don't need any background to crush the current heaven rulers." When he finished speaking, his eyes turned cold. Unaffected by the gravity, he flew over like a shadow, raised his right arm, and struck down with his palm. The giant said coldly, "A fine bird chooses a good tree to nest in. I thought you were a smart man, but it turns out you are also a fool." With a light snort, the giant raised his right palm and struck down. All of a sudden, a thunderous sound erupted. The dense fog within a radius of 10,000 feet was dispersed by the airflow, revealing the long-lost light. Above the secret realm, a barrier had been shattered by the impact of the battle between the two parties, causing the fog to flow out. "The secret realm is damaged," Lu Chui said in surprise. The limit of the secret realm was the almighty peak, and the damage was only at the level of all creations. Looking at the two again, Gu Taishu's eyes were filled with coldness, and his body was pushed back several feet. The giant's huge body was also pushed back several feet. This giant could actually be on par with Gu Taishu. The most surprising thing was that when the dense fog dissipated, the giant's real body was revealed. It was a silver puppet that was 100 feet tall. Its whole body emitted a silver-white metallic luster, its facial features blurred, and its eyes hid two mysterious formations. It was the activation of the formations that released the shockingly powerful yellow halos. Looking at the silver puppet, Su Yu touched the space ring subconsciously. A puppet body, very good. Gu Taishu seemed to be infuriated. His palms gathered energy, and he struck the silver puppet fiercely across the air. "You overestimate yourself," the silver puppet sneered. Its palms were filled with silver light, forming a layer of ripples invisible to the naked eye, and clashed with Gu Taishu. Boom, boom, boom. The dense, muffled sound of thunder lingered on. The entire secret realm was shaken by the sound of the battle between the two parties. Many places were damaged, causing the dense fog to dissipate. 10 directions sky net. Gu Taishu's 5 fingers pressed down like the hand of the heavens, carrying the mighty power of heaven and earth, suppressing all unyielding beings. The silver puppet was not afraid. Immovable as a mountain. Chapter 979. Lu Chui was shocked. What is the origin of the silver puppet? It can fight Brother Taishu to a draw. Gu Taishu was known as the number one of the younger generation, and his combat power was unparalleled. The puppet in front of them could fight him for 8 rounds without falling into a disadvantageous position. It was extremely powerful. At least, as far as they knew, no one had been able to survive 10 moves from Gu Taishu. Su Yu watched quietly, and his evaluation of Gu Taishu's combat power rose again. At present, it was equivalent to Stage 2 all creations. However, he could feel that this was not Gu Taishu's true combat power. It's time to end this. After the 9th round, Gu Taishu slowly withdrew his hands and said indifferently. His palms were gesturing in front of his chest in an extremely obscure gesture, as if he was preparing for some extremely powerful move. A spot of purple light slowly radiated from his chest, as if there was a purple jade embedded in his chest. The purple brilliance grew brighter and brighter, gradually enveloping the sky. Soon, heaven and earth were included in the purple world. From the outside, the purple cloud secret realm had been reduced to a land controlled by purple. Emo Tianxuan's eyes shone with surprise, and one could vaguely see the shock hidden in the depths of her pupils. She could not help but stare at the true man of the purple cloud. What a genius of the divine path! He is about to leave the pure state and enter the virtual transformation state. Since ancient times, only a few ancient mortal fairies have reached the virtual transformation state. Gu Taishu is indeed an amazing genius. Emo Tianxuan's expression was complicated, as if she was deeply moved and lamenting at the same time. It was rumored that the void transformation divine decree was the lowest threshold for a mortal fairy to become a god. Since ancient times, there were only a few who had reached this step, including the oldest and most powerful glittering jewel mortal fairy. She had comprehended the void transformation divine decree, but she still could not enter the divine path, and passed away in meditation. If she was like this, how could they, who had not even reached the level of a mortal fairy? Gu Taishu had touched the threshold of the virtual transformation state at such a young age. It would not be difficult for him to enter the virtual transformation state in the future. In other words, Gu Taishu had the potential to become a god. As the older generation, how could they not be amazed? The true man of the purple cloud smiled. You flatter me. Before entering the virtual transformation state, it is not considered a success. His smile hid envy and a faint helplessness. Emo Tianxian came back to her senses and said, "The secret realm is broken. The Fengyun meet is almost over." The true man of the purple cloud shook his head slightly. "Why don't we talk about it after this battle? Do you find that silver puppet familiar?" Upon hearing this, Emo Tianxian narrowed her eyes. "It seems familiar. If I remember correctly, it appeared during the war between the human and ghost clans 100 years ago. After that, it was blown into the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion by Tianjizi's celestial artifact, and it never appeared again." The true man of the purple cloud nodded. "Exactly. Although the two aren't exactly the same, the materials used are shockingly similar. There must be a connection between the two. We might as well wait and see. Once the Great Void finds out who's controlling the puppet, we might be able to obtain quite a bit of information," said Daoist Purple Cloud. Emo Tianxian stared at every movement in the secret realm and nodded lightly. In the mystic realm enveloped by the purple world, everyone felt as if they had entered another world. And Gu Taishu, who was the source of the purple light, seemed to have become the master of the purple world. He replaced the heavens and controlled the purple world. Everyone had the same feeling in their hearts. The giant's expression changed drastically, and there was even fear in his voice. "Void transformation divine intent? Impossible. How old are you? How can you comprehend this level of divine decree?" "Void transformation divine decree?" Su Yu's heart trembled as he looked around. Was this divine decree? Gu Taishu's pure divine decree was to replace the heavens. In the purple world, Gu Taishu had really become the master of the world, which coincided with his divine decree. What level of divine decree was void transformation? Gu Taishu's lips curled into a cold smile, and he looked like the god of Brahma. Freeze! With a light word, the giant puppet was suddenly suppressed by a mysterious power. It wasn't like the all-creation's mighty force, but more like a command, a rule. The giant puppet's entire body was really frozen, and it couldn't move at all. It even lost the ability to speak. Fire! Gu Taishu spat out another word. All of a sudden, raging flames appeared all over the giant puppet's body, burning it. The flames were very fierce, and the giant puppet's strong body softened immediately. Drops of silver liquid dripped from its body. Looking at the situation, the giant puppet was about to be burned to death. Witnessing this scene, everyone was horrified. The purple world was a world controlled by Gu Taishu. In this place, he was equivalent to a god. He could freeze the enemy with a single thought. He could create something out of nothing with a single thought, and create raging flames to destroy the enemy. The unprecedented method of destroying the enemy was refreshing. At the same time, Suyu also felt unprecedented pressure. The pure divine decree had evolved to the highest level, and it turned out that it had such terrifying power. It was no wonder that the divine path cultivators were often feared by others. Suyu's pure divine decree had yet to be comprehended to the highest level. Seeing that the silver puppet was about to be destroyed by Gu Taishu, a wave of space fluctuation suddenly erupted from inside the puppet, as if someone had activated a space treasure. Swoosh! The space power flashed, and the giant puppet's eyes dimmed, as if it had lost its ability to move. Gu Taishu frowned. With a single thought, the flames on the surface of the giant's body disappeared immediately, as if they had never existed. Escaped, Gu Taishu said coldly. The situation just now was clearly that someone was controlling the puppet from inside. However, he didn't know what method he had used to escape from the puppet using space power. Now that there was no one inside the puppet, and no one was controlling it, the puppet naturally lost its ability to respond. However, right at that moment, the motionless silver puppet suddenly emitted a deep blue light. It quickly turned from silver to dark blue, which was extremely strange. Creak, creak. At the same time, the harsh sound of gears grinding could be heard from inside the puppet. Without anyone controlling it, the silver puppet stood up on its own, thumping its chest with both hands and letting out a shrill cry. The blue light all over its body was getting stronger and stronger. Inside its body, an extremely dangerous power was expanding rapidly. It was the all-creation's mighty force. The endless all-creation's mighty force was expanding rapidly. It's going to self-destruct. Lu Chuyi, who was proficient in crafting weapons and knew a little about puppets, immediately understood what was going on. Gu Taishu's expression changed drastically, and he shouted anxiously, "Freeze!" The puppet's body was indeed frozen, but the rapidly expanding all-creation's mighty force did not stop. After all, his divine decree was not enough to control such an enormous power. Outside, the true man of the purple cloud and Mo Tianxian were both shocked by the strange scene. The self-destruction of a Stage 3 all-creation's old monster. Oh no, even Gu Taishu can't resist it. Save them quickly! The true man's expression changed drastically. The all-creation's mighty force of a Stage 3 all-creation's old monster was enough to raise the entire purple cloud palace to the ground. Under such absolute power, even Gu Taishu couldn't do anything. However, the people of the Purple Cloud secret realm were scattered. How could they all be rescued in such a short time? Mo Tianxuan's murderous aura filled the air. Sinister. Since the beginning, the puppet had planned to destroy the geniuses of the blessed and heavenly lands. Whether or not anyone could defeat it, the outcome could not be changed. Inside the secret realm, Sensing that the extremely dangerous all creation's mighty force was about to erupt, Gu Taishu shouted, "How dare you!" When he finished speaking, he flew forward and bombarded the puppet with all kinds of magical powers. However, the puppet in its self-destruction state was harder than when it was in its silver state. No matter how powerful Gu Taishu was, he couldn't shake it at all. After several attempts, Gu Taishu gave up and immediately soared into the sky to escape the secret realm that was about to be destroyed. Lear, let's go. A slit appeared between Gu Taishu's eyebrows, and a large amount of purple light shot out. Wherever the purple light passed, the suppression was lifted. Without the suppression, he could travel 1,000 miles with one step and leave the secret realm in an instant. The rest of the people also began to flee. However, they didn't have magical powers like Gu Taishu, which could ignore the suppression. They couldn't even fly, so how could they escape the secret realm? "Senior Brother Gu, take me with you!" the disciples of the Purple Cloud Palace shouted in horror. However, how could Gu Taishu have the time to rescue them one by one? The puppet's self-destruction had entered the final stage, and it would explode in less than 10 breaths' time. By then, the entire Purple Cloud Palace might be flattened to the ground. Whether or not he could escape the explosion range with Lu Chui was uncertain, let alone come back to rescue them. There wasn't enough time. Lu Chui couldn't bear it. She glanced at the silver-masked figure in the secret realm out of the corner of her eye, and she felt an inexplicable pain in her chest. Because that person looked so similar to that youth. "Brother Yuxian, what should we do?" Cold sweat broke out on Gongsun Wuxia's forehead, and she couldn't help but touch the jade pendant on her chest. If she crushed the jade pendant now, she might still have time to summon her father's virtual image. With his strength, it would be easy to deal with the puppet's self-destruction. However, after crushing it, all her adventurous activities would come to an end. Swoosh! At this moment, Bai Shanliang, Bing Wuqing, and the others, who had been hurrying along, arrived one after another. Looking at the giant puppet that was about to self-destruct, their faces were very ugly. Even Bing Wuqing was no exception. Stage 3 All Creation's Old Monster's Self-Destruction? Bing Wuqing looked solemn. Tianyu was also shocked, and her eyes flickered. Bai Shanliang wailed, I haven't lived long enough." Bing Wuqing looked up at the outside world, and said in a low voice, "Palace Master Mo will probably come down to rescue us, but she can only come once, and she may not find us before the explosion." Hearing that, everyone's heart sank. There was no time to wait, and they were still suppressed by the secret realm, so they had no way to escape. The only way is to destroy the puppet. Maybe that can stop it from self-destruction. Bing Wuqing's eyes flickered as she stared at the giant puppet that was flickering more and more. Gongsun Wuxia's small face turned pale. "It's useless. Gu Taishu has given up on destroying the puppet and chosen to escape." Him? Even the pretentious Tianyu felt as if something was stuck in her throat. Even Gu Taishu, who was known as the heaven ruler of the blessed and heavenly lands, couldn't do anything about it, let alone them. However, at this moment Su Yu, who had been silent all this time, frowned and said, "If there's no other way, maybe I can try."